In the dark, the girl covered her head and went to a funeral. When she arrived, she took out an envelope and gave it to a young man. He was extremely surprised when he saw the number in the passbook. This was the savings his mother left after she died. At this moment, the girl's eyes suddenly became scary. She said, "You naughty son, if you keep disilluting, I'll cut off your hand. Don't go gambling anymore." Her powerful voice scared the young man's family. They realized that these were the words their mother often said when she was alive. After she finished speaking, the girl left the house. When she reached the door, she saw an old woman. Then she also disappeared into thin air. It turned out that since birth, this girl had been able to see the souls of the dead. That's why ghosts often came to her to ask for help in fulfilling their wishes. Last night, the ghost of an old woman came to Gong Shil's inn to ask for help. So today, she went to that guy's house. At the same time, in another place, this guy is the CEO of Kingdom Group. He is negotiating to buy back an old, dilapidated house. The owner of the house is determined not to sell it because he believes that the ghost of his deceased wife is still lingering in this house. She does not agree to let him sell it. He points to a wilted flower and says, "Every time I mention selling the house, this flower will fade and wither. But when I decide not to sell it, it blooms again." Jungwon sneers when he hears this. Nonsense. He says he wants to negotiate directly with her spirit. He walks up to the flower pot and picks up the pruning shears next to it. Then he starts giving her an ultimatum. He says if she agrees to sell the house, she must make this flower bow its head. If not, I will cut it off. Jungwon counts to 3 seconds and sees that the flower is still standing still. He coldly took scissors and cut off the flower, much to everyone's surprise. The homeowner stood up angrily and shouted, claiming that Jungwon was possessed by a ghost. Jungwon argued back that he was the crazy one. The living had already discussed everything, but he was using the dead as an excuse. Ghosts don't exist. If this superstitious act isn't crazy, then what is it? The homeowner couldn't say anything back. He watched helplessly as Jungwon took out the contract and forced him to sign. Before Jungwon left, the homeowner cursed him, saying that if he didn't respect the dead, he would be struck by lightning sooner or later. Jungwon calmly replied that he felt very normal. He had nothing to feel guilty about. When Jungwon got to his car, he told Secretary Kim to put the umbrella aside. Then he spread his arms out in the rain in a defiant pose. But the lightning didn't hit him. He turned around and left, leaving the man standing there, muttering curses that the ghost would definitely come to settle the score with him. On the way back, Secretary Kim curiously asked Jungwon if he was afraid of ghosts. He calmly replied that dead people were nothing to be afraid of. Living people were the scariest things. At the same time, Gong Shil was standing huddled on the side of the road waiting for a car in the rainy night. Secretary Kim saw her waving for a ride, so he immediately asked Jungwon if he should stop the car, but Jungwon coldly ordered them to continue going straight. However, the car had not gone far when Secretary Kim was startled because he saw a flash of light ahead. He quickly braked. Gong Shil thought they had stopped the car to wait for her, so she quickly got in the car. Secretary Kim was surprised and asked why she was standing in such a remote place waiting for a car. Gong Shil honestly replied that a ghost had led her here to avoid lightning. At the same time, she turned to look at Jungwon and said something meaningful. She said he could avoid the thunder of heaven, but he couldn't escape the woman's stalking. Jungwon glared at her after hearing that. He thought the girl was talking nonsense. The car stopped at a rest stop. Gong Shil went to the restroom and was disturbed by another ghost. It turned out to be an alcoholic ghost. He asked her to buy him alcohol. Jungwon stood nearby, looking blankly at the strange girl who was talking to the air. He shook his head in dismay, affirming that this girl was definitely crazy. Then he quickly left. Gong Shil ran after Jungwon. Meanwhile, the alcoholic ghost also clung to her, but strangely, when Gong Shil accidentally touched Jungwon, the ghost suddenly disappeared into nothingness. This shocking discovery made her extremely surprised, but Jungwon had lost all patience. He angrily said that he hated 2 things in this world the most. One was someone touching his wallet. The remaining thing is that someone touched him. Whoever touched his money would definitely be dealt with by him. And what should be done with someone's hand that had the audacity to touch him? Gong Shil hurriedly explained that something was chasing her, but Jungwon looked around but saw nothing. He was an atheist, so he didn't believe in nonsense about ghosts. He roughly pushed her hand away and left. When Jungwon got in the car, he was surprised to discover a white rose in Gong Shil's raincoat pocket. Without saying anything, he picked up the flower and threw it out the car window in disgust. The next day, Gong Shil went to Jungwon's company to ask for the raincoat she had left in the car. By chance, she saw him standing and talking to a famous soccer player named Hai Sung. What was scary was that right next to Hai Sung, there was a female ghost sitting there. Unexpectedly, just a second later, the ghost of the girl teleported and appeared right in front of Gong Shil. Gong Shil was startled and she stepped back. This ghost ghost's name was Mi Kyung. She had no ill intentions, she just hoped that Gong Shil could help her convey a message to Hai Sung so that he would remember the promise under the tree years ago. Many years ago, Mi Kyung and Hai Sung loved each other deeply. Under the tree of memories, Mi Kyung buried a secret box and joked that if he abandoned her in the future, she would use it as a tool to threaten him. At that time, Hai Sung laughed and firmly said that he would never leave Mi Kyung. But ironically, later, when the two were about to get married, Mi Kyung suddenly changed her attitude and asked to break up. No matter how much Hai Sung begged, she still heartlessly decided to leave him to study abroad. Gong Shil wanted to tell Hai Sung the truth, but Jung Won grabbed her hair and stopped her. He thought she was a crazy fan who came here to cause trouble. After being scolded by him, she held her head in pain and left the place. Not long after, Hai Sung received an anonymous threatening letter. Inside the envelope was a photo of him and his ex-girlfriend Mi Kyung. He was angry and heartbroken. He also thought that Mi Kyung was jealous of his success, so she did that to sabotage him. Gong Shil went to Secretary Kim and hoped that he could help her pass the message to Hai Sung. She would stand under the memorial tree to wait for him. But the person who appeared was Jung Won. He took out the threatening letter and asked her if the person in the photo was Hye Sung's ex-lover. Wasn't Gong Shil the one who sent the threatening letter to him? Gong Shil immediately denied it and said how could that be? His ex-girlfriend was dead. Jung Won was stunned for a moment, but he still suspected that she was making things up. She explained that she was just helping Mi Kyung pass on the message. Gong Shil asked Jung Won to tell Hai Sung that his ex-lover was always by his side, protecting and motivating him. Jung Won coldly took the photo and tore it into pieces. Then he said that death was the end of everything. She should not make things difficult for the living like that. On Gong Shil's way back, Mi Kyung's ghost still appeared and asked for her help, but Gong Shil tiredly refused. Gong Shil begged Mi Kyung to stop following her and let her go. Because of Mi Kyung, Gong Shil was considered crazy by everyone. At the dinner table, Jung Won asked Hye Sung if she suspected who was threatening him. At this time, the assistant next to him interrupted. The assistant said that Mi Kyung must have threatened Hye Sung. He even pretended to be kind and comforted Hye Sung, saying that as long as you were by my side, I could help you handle all this trouble. Jung Won suddenly remembered what Gong Shil said, that the girl was dead. He put the events together and suddenly understood the problem. The person who threatened Hai Sung was actually his close assistant. The assistant's purpose was to use the secret of the past to tie Hai Sung down. He turned Hai Sung into his golden goose forever. On Hai Sung's wedding day, Gong Shil recklessly took the secret box that Mi Kyung had directed to the groom's waiting room. When Hai Sung saw the box, he was angry and thought that Gong Shil was the blackmailer, so he threw the box away. The box fell to the ground and broke. Inside fell a pair of old sneakers. Hai Sung was stunned to realize that these shoes were the first gift Mi Kyung gave him when he was still in trouble. Gong Shil choked up as he told Hai Sung the truth that his ex-girlfriend was dead. She discovered that she had a terminal illness, so she had to leave him. After Hai Sung heard this, he felt extremely regretful. He had always blamed his girlfriend for abandoning him because of her ambition. Unexpectedly, the reason was because she did not want to be a burden to his future. Hai Sung took off his dress shoes, put on those old sneakers, and ran to the park where the tree of promise was. The ghost of Mi Kyung quietly walked in front, leading the way. Hai Sung walked to the tree. He reached out to touch the rough trunk. Tears fell from his eyes as he recalled old memories. Perhaps his sincere feelings had moved the heavens, so in that moment, he could suddenly see the silhouette of his ex-lover smiling at him. Gong Shil stood in the distance, watching the scene with complicated feelings. Hai Sung returned to the altar and exposed the assistant's true face. Then Hai Sung taught him a lesson. After that, Hai Sung apologized to the bride and announced the cancellation of the wedding. He told everyone that he wanted to continue playing soccer because the girl in his heart always supported his dream. Jung Won felt that Hye Sung's choice was confusing and stupid, but Hai Sung said that although the dead can't do anything, the hearts of the living can't stop thinking about that person. Then Hai Sung turned to Jung Won and said meaningfully that there seemed to be someone beside him. It was also a ghost watching him. That sentence startled Jung Won and reminded him of Hee Ju, his girlfriend who passed away in a tragic accident many years ago. Jung Won hurriedly went to Gong Shil. He wanted to ask her who the ghost beside him was, but at that time, because Gong Shil was too tired, she was possessed by the wandering ghosts. When she accidentally touched Jung Won, the ghosts were suddenly pushed back and disappeared. Gong Shil fell into Jung Won's arms exhausted and fell fell asleep immediately. They were standing and talking, but Gong Shil could still sleep soundly. But the cold Jungwon didn't want her to sleep peacefully. He roughly opened her eyes to see, then he pushed her down onto the stone bench. Gong Shil woke up with a start. While she was still confused and didn't understand what was going on, Jungwon started to criticize her again. He complained that it had been centuries since she had washed her hair and why it was so dirty. He didn't hide his disgust. He waved his handkerchief around as if she smelled bad. He seriously asked her if she had seen something next to him the last time. What did she actually see? Gong Shil hesitantly told him that the last time Jungwon was looking at the spiderwebs on the stairs, there was a ghost standing right in front of him. She looked at him sadly. Maybe she was his dead girlfriend. Jungwon was still skeptical, so he challenged Gong Shil. If she could really see ghosts, then try to prove if there were any ghosts here right now. Gong Shil looked around, and then she shakily pointed to a flashing streetlight in the distance. She said there was a ghost standing there. As soon as Gong Shil pointed, the ghost slowly walked towards Gong Shil. She screamed in fear and instinctively grabbed Jungwon's arm. Miraculously, in a moment, the ghost disappeared, as if it had never existed. Gong Shil was overjoyed as if she had found gold. She realized that Jungwon was her safe haven. He was the lucky star of her life. As long as she touched him, she could avoid the harassment of scary ghosts. She begged him to let her stay by his side. Unexpectedly, Jungwon coldly replied that if this building belonged to her, he might reconsider. But now, she shouldn't think about it. Then Jungwon immediately shook Gong Shil's hand away. She quickly ran after him, explaining that because he couldn't see or hear them, he felt normal, but she could see and hear them, so she was very scared. Her life was like hell. He laughed and mocked her, saying that an atheist like him wasn't afraid of ghosts, but he was scared when he saw her crazy appearance. Even though Jungwon treated her harshly, Gong Shil still had an optimistic spirit. Because of survival, she couldn't and didn't dare to care about these things. She confidently declared that she was the sun. Jungwon immediately criticized her, saying that if she were the sun, he would never want to see the sun rise again. Gong Shil still happily replied that when the sun rose, she would come to his side again. Don't worry. Next time she promised to wash her hair clean. Not long after, a photo of a ghostly figure at the fountain in Kingdom Mall became a hot topic online. People rumored that it was the ghost of Jungwon's dead girlfriend. The ghost rumor spread far and wide, causing the mall's business to be severely affected. Customers were afraid to come. Gong Shil saw that the place was recruiting night shift cleaners, so she thought this was a good opportunity to be near Jungwon. So she applied and successfully got the job. Seeing Gong Shil in her janitor's uniform, Jungwon asked her if she could really see ghosts, then looked to see if there were any ghosts haunting this waterfall. Gong Shil looked carefully and then shook her head, affirming that she saw nothing. It was very clean here. Jungwon breathed a sigh of relief after hearing this. Gong Shil was happy because she thought Jungwon had begun to trust her abilities. Unexpectedly, he poured cold water on her. He said that he had said that there were no ghosts in this world. People were just scaring themselves. At the same time, at a high school, 3 female students were secretly sitting in an empty classroom, playing a game of summoning the spirit by the pen. The 3 girls' faces were full of worry and doubt, because the purpose of their dangerous game was to find the culprit behind the mysterious death of their friend named Eun-sol. When Eun-sol was alive, she had a close relationship with this group of friends. Their hands holding the pen suddenly started to tremble and move uncontrollably. One girl tremblingly asked if Eun-sol had been here. The pen suddenly moved towards the word yes on the paper. The girl mustered up all her courage to ask again why Eun-sol died and was the person who killed her present here. The atmosphere in the room turned cold. The pen moved again. This time it spun out of control and pointed straight at the 3 girls sitting there. The 3 above them were surprised and confused. Suddenly, the classroom door opened. The teacher walked in and shouted loudly, causing the whole group to drop their pens. The teacher told the class to disperse and return to their seats. At that moment, a girl in the group looked out the window and shivered. Outside the glass door, there was a blurry figure floating and staring at them, but she couldn't see clearly. Then, all 3 of their phones simultaneously received a text message from Eun-sol's number. It was a photo of the 3 of them sitting in class, but behind them appeared a white ghost. It seemed that Eun-sol's ghost had returned to take revenge. She even scared the 3 girls to the point of fainting. The 3 of them panicked and discussed the ghostly photo. One of the girls thought that Eun-sol had sent it. She felt that Eun-sol hated them because of the past, but the girl with glasses tried to calm them down and said that this was just someone's malicious joke. The other friend denied it and said that Eun-sol's death had nothing to do with them. It was just a random traffic accident. In order to find find out the truth, the three of them decided to sneak to the Kingdom Mall tonight. That was also where the ghost photo in the text message was taken. They wanted to see the truth. That night, Gong Shil went to work the night shift at the mall. She wanted to help Jungwon find the real ghost in the rumored photo to clear the mall's name. That way, she could have an excuse to be by his side. But after going everywhere, she realized that all the ghosts there were not Eun-sul. While Gong Shil was resting on a bench, suddenly a hand was placed on her shoulder from behind. She was so scared that she screamed. She turned around and asked who it was. It turned out to be Kang Woo, the new security team leader of the mall. Coincidentally, he was also the one renting the room right next to hers. He kindly asked her what she was doing here alone at this hour. She stammered and lied that she had dropped something and wanted to go find it. Seeing that, he gallantly offered to help her. This place was very dark. Moreover, there were rumors of ghosts recently, so let him come along to help her find it. He asked her what she was looking for. She just smiled and said that what she was looking for was not something he could see. No matter how good his eyesight was, he still couldn't see it. At that moment, three female students sneaked to the fountain area. They looked up into the air and shakily called Eun-sul's name. Gong Shil was very curious when she saw them. Kang Woo frowned suspiciously and said, "There were only 3 people there. Who were they talking to?" He loudly shouted and asked what they were doing there. The 3 girls were scared. They thought they were caught by the security guard, so they turned around and ran away. As they ran away, Gong Shil saw only Eun-sul's ghost standing there alone. Gong Shil approached Eun-sul's ghost. She wanted to listen to the story of this poor soul. It turned out that the sad story started from small things. Eun-sul was a poor but gentle girl. She wanted to invite her friends to drink so that they could become close, so she spent all her little pocket money to buy some for her friends. She was so enthusiastic that she had no money left to buy some for herself. Even though she invited her friends to drink some water, when she asked for a piece of their pizza, they looked at her with contempt and disgust. Furthermore, during a baking practice, Eun-sul accidentally ruined the group's ingredients. The 3 friends saw this and immediately scolded Eun-sul. Because they were so angry, they called her stupid. They declared that they didn't want to play with her anymore and sent her home. The poor girl could only force a smile and sadly go out to buy some soft drinks. She naively thought that if she bought them another drink, they might calm down and play with her again. At that time, the girl who was the leader of the group playing the fairy pen game discovered that Eun-sul had left her phone in class. She took her phone and ran after Eun-sul to return it. When she got closer, Eun-sul suddenly heard the vendors talking to each other about how shameless she was. She had been chased away, but still came back to buy drinks. They also said that Eun-sul would come back to them. They also thought that they were so soft-hearted that every time Eun-sul begged, they couldn't bear to refuse. But one thing was for sure, they would never truly consider her a close friend. Hearing those heartbreaking confessions, Eun-sul felt extremely lonely and sad. She cried as she walked. Eun-sul wondered why she treated them so sincerely, but they never accepted her. Tears blurred her vision, preventing her from seeing the traffic light turn red. A truck rushed in, and something unexpected happened. A girl who had not yet turned 18 had to leave this life. A friend, who had been following Eun-sul from the beginning to the end, witnessed everything. She stood there dumbfounded when she saw that horrifying scene. The phone in her hand fell to the ground. That was the reason why she was always haunted and tormented. After Gong Shil knew the story, she went to the classroom of the 3 female students. She asked the other friend to hand over the phone they were hiding. It turned out that the spinning pen trick was secretly pushed by this friend. The photo with the ghost was also edited by her to scare the other 3 friends. Her purpose was to awaken their conscience so that they would be afraid and repent, but they were too heartless to feel guilty at all. At that moment, all 3 of their phones simultaneously received a text message from Eun-sul. The message said that Eun-sul was right next to them. The 3 of them looked at their phones and then at each other, terrified. They finally burst into tears and apologized to Eun-sul. Belatedly, they regretted always thinking she was annoying and treating her badly and rejecting her. They hoped Eun-sul could forgive them. Suddenly, 3 bottles of soda fell out of the vending machine next to them and rolled down to their feet. It was the same kind of soda Eun-sul always bought for them. The 3 girls looked up. They seemed to sense Eun-sul's presence. Eun-sul was still standing there with a gentle smile, like always. She said it was okay. She didn't blame them at all. Then her spirit smiled peacefully and disappeared into nothingness. After the mystery of the ghost photo was cleared up, the malicious rumors were also put to rest. It was even rumored that the fountain at Kingdom Mall was very sacred. Anyone who came to pray would have their wishes fulfilled. Thanks to that, Jungwon's business was not only not affected, but also prospered more than before. Gong Shil continued her job as a janitor. That day, Kang Woo gallantly asked asked to accompany Gong Shil home after work because they were neighbors. This made Gong Shil blush because she also secretly had a crush on this handsome guy. Jung-won saw all of this from afar. He looked at them with an annoyed look. In a deserted area of the shopping mall, another female employee was getting ready to leave work. Suddenly, she saw a pink high-heel shoe lying in the middle of the hallway. She curiously picked it up to look at it. She exclaimed because the shoe was very beautiful and an expensive brand. She looked around for the other one, but couldn't find it. She planned to bring it to the security room, but before she could take a few steps, she felt like someone was following her. She fearfully turned around to check, but the hallway was empty. She continued walking when a creepy female ghost suddenly appeared right behind her and whispered in her ear, "Give me back my shoes." She panicked and ran away. While waiting for the elevator, the billboard next to her suddenly fell and broke into pieces, making her scream. Not daring to take the elevator anymore, she decided to run down the stairs. Occasionally, she turned her head and looked back in fear. Suddenly, a cold hand reached out from the gap in the stairs and grabbed her ankle, causing her to lose her balance and roll down the stairs, unconscious. Jung-won and Gong Shil heard a loud noise and immediately ran over to see what was happening. The girl said dreamily that she felt like something was following her, demanding the shoes. Jung-won quickly ran up to check, but he didn't find anything suspicious. He tried stomping on the floor and concluded that the newly cleaned floor was still slippery, so she slipped and fell. He had someone take the girl to the hospital. He then told Gong Shil to stay and clean up the scene. While Gong Shil was cleaning up, she saw a pink high-heel shoe lying in a hidden corner. Fascinated by its beauty, she couldn't help but try it on. Gong Shil had only taken a few steps when suddenly a scary ghost appeared at the end of the hallway. Gong Shil was scared and ran away. The ghost had lost a leg, so she had to crawl on the floor. However, the speed at which she chased Gong Shil was terrifyingly fast. Gong Shil rushed into the elevator and pressed the close button. When Gong Shil saw the ghostly hand crawling closer and closer to her, she closed her eyes and prayed. Luckily, the elevator door closed just before the ghost reached her. Gong Shil breathed a sigh of relief and leaned against the elevator wall. But the nightmare wasn't over yet. The lights in the elevator started flickering continuously. The breath blew over her hand, and Gong Shil was horrified to realize that the ghost had been standing right behind her. The ghost whispered and asked Gong Shil for help. Gong Shil was so scared that she screamed. As soon as the elevator door opened, she rushed out. As soon as Gong Shil ran to the parking lot, she was lucky to see Jung-won's car coming. She panicked and knocked on the glass door, telling him to open the door for her, but he coldly ignored her. He laughed contemptuously and stepped on the gas to drive away. So once again, he left her behind. Gong Shil looked at the car desperately. She turned around and saw the female ghost getting closer and closer to her. She was so scared that her legs went limp and she sat on the ground. However, through the rearview mirror, Jung-won saw Gong Shil's face of extreme fear. His conscience rose up, so he braked and backed the car back to her. He got out of the car and asked her what had happened. Seeing Jung-won, Gong Shil felt like she saw a lifeline. She rushed to hug him tightly and wouldn't let go. Immediately, the female ghost disappeared into thin air. Feeling safe, Gong Shil calmed down and took the initiative to let go of him. She told him everything. She said the owner of this shoe was chasing her. The girl's name was Jin-ju, who had just passed away in a tragic traffic accident. Jin-ju wanted Gong Shil to take this shoe to her husband, who was in the hospital. At the hospital, Jin-ju's husband was crying bitterly next to his wife's body, as if he was in extreme pain. Gong Shil asked Jung-won to go to the hospital with her, because the hospital was the place where most ghosts gathered. She was afraid that if she went alone, the ghosts would haunt her. When they arrived, Jung-won asked Gong Shil where Jin-ju's ghost was. Suddenly, a pale hand slowly reached out from behind her husband's back. They followed the direction Jin-ju's ghost pointed and saw a medical cart being pushed out of the emergency room. Suddenly, a pink high-heel shoe fell from the car, identical to the one Gong Shil was holding. A man hurriedly ran to pick it up. He looked extremely miserable and haggard. Gong Shil whispered to Jung-won that he was the husband of the unfortunate woman. Jung-won recognized this man. Jung-won said that he rented a booth to do business in the shopping mall. When the two of them were about to go forward to return the other shoe to him, he suddenly received a phone call and hurriedly walked away to a hidden corner. Gong Shil and Jung-won secretly followed him. They were stunned when they saw his face change. He had been crying miserably just now, but now he had a sinister smile and spoke happily into the phone. He announced that his wife was now dead. Gong Shil was scared and exclaimed that sometimes men are scarier than ghosts. While he was on the phone, Jinju's ghost was still standing right next to him, staring at him with eyes full of resentment and pain. That tragic accident was definitely related to this bad husband. Gong Shil wanted to investigate the truth to demand justice for the deceased, but Jung-won brushed it off. He didn't want to waste precious time on things that had nothing to do with him. He even coldly advised Gong-sil not to do meaningless things anymore. If she had free time, she should take care of herself a little, so that when others looked at her, she would look like a normal person, not a ghost. Gong-sil sadly walked alone on the street. People around her looked at her shabby appearance and couldn't help but laugh at her. Gong-sil also felt embarrassed. She looked down at one of her feet, which was in a tattered cardboard box instead of shoes. Just then, Kang-woo appeared, and he also saw the strange cardboard box on her foot. But unlike the others, he didn't feel funny at all. But on the contrary, he showed concern for her. He kindly invited her to go home with him. At this time, Jung-won drove a distance when he suddenly remembered that there was still a pair of shoes that the employee had left in the trunk of his car. The image of Gong-sil walking barefoot with a cardboard box kept lingering in his mind, making him uneasy. In the end, he softened his heart and decided to go back to give her the shoes. But when he drove around the area a few times, he still couldn't see her anywhere. When he was frustrated and about to turn around to go home, the car's navigation system suddenly automatically directed him in a completely different direction. Although annoyed, he still curiously drove following that mysterious direction. Unexpectedly, he returned right in front of the hospital gate. Coincidentally, he saw Jinju's husband secretly throwing her remaining high-heel shoe into the trash can on the side of the road. This sneaky action made Jung-won feel extremely strange and suspicious. The next day, Gong-sil went to find the female employee who fell down the stairs yesterday to ask her what happened. Gong-sil wanted to know exactly where she picked up the haunted shoe. Gong-sil went to the location where the shoe fell. She discovered that it was very close to Jinju's bad husband's shop. In order to re-envision the scene, Gong-sil did not hesitate to lie down on the floor to observe the victim's perspective. This funny scene was caught by Jung-won. Seeing that, he started teasing her. At that time, a young girl from the shop next door passed by. What was remarkable was that she was wearing a pair of high heels identical to Jinju's shoes. Gong-sil curiously trotted after the girl. It turned out that she was an employee working in Jinju's husband's shop. Not long after, Jinju's husband also appeared here. Gong-sil furtively tiptoed to look through the glass door, and she saw the two of them having overly intimate gestures. Suddenly, he turned to look towards the door. Gong-sil was startled and quickly sat down to hide. At this time, Jinju's ghost appeared and told Gong-sil the whole heartbreaking truth. That day, Jinju went to the store to surprise her husband, but she caught her husband cheating with the young employee. The two of them were discussing a plan to assassinate Jinju on the upcoming mountain climbing trip that he had pretended to prepare to rekindle their relationship. He said that Jinju loved mountain climbing, but she could never have imagined that it would be the place where her life would end. Jinju heard everything. She did not expect that her husband would invite her to travel because he intended to kill her. She was so shocked and in pain that she accidentally made a noise. So her husband discovered her. He looked out and caught her. She panicked and ran away, and her husband was chasing her closely. On the way, one of her high heels slipped off, but she did not dare stop to pick it up. She climbed into her car and stepped on the gas to escape her evil husband. Suddenly a truck passed by. She tried to swerve to avoid it, but was almost hit by the car behind her. In a panic, she stepped on the gas pedal to increase the distance between her husband and her. But unexpectedly, another car was rushing forward. A terrible collision sound rang out. Poor Jinju died on the spot. After her death, her husband began to plan another plan to harm her parents. If her parents died, he would inherit all of their huge assets. What a cruel and heartless man. Not long after, Jinju's mother came to the store. She even personally brought a lunchbox to her son-in-law because she felt sorry for him for having to take care of the funeral. He pretended to reach out and take it. He also took the opportunity to ask her to go hiking on the weekend. He took this opportunity to create another random accident. Gong-sil could not stand to watch the tragedy continue. She bravely walked straight into the store and put the high heel on the table to return it to him. Then Gong-sil said that Jinju asked her to return it to him. He started to panic and his face changed color. Jinju's mother was surprised and asked if this shoe really belonged to her daughter. Jinju's husband quickly denied it. He told her not to listen to Gong-sil's nonsense. This shoe did not belong to Jinju. The police had already found a pair of Jinju's shoes. He went to the glass cabinet next to him and took out another shoe to prove it. Gong-sil insisted that he was lying. Blatantly, unexpectedly, he started making a scene like a fool and started blaming Gong-sil. He said that his wife had passed away less than a week ago. He was so heartbroken that he wanted to die following her. Why did Gong Shil have the heart to fabricate such lies and slander him like that? Then he called security to take Gong Shil out. Gong Shil was surrounded by a curious crowd and pointed at her. Everyone thought she was a crazy person who came to disturb someone who had just lost his wife. At that moment, Jungwon suddenly appeared like a god. He walked through the crowd and reached out his hand to her. She held his hand tightly as if she had just found a life preserver. Jungwon calmly asked Gong Shil if she was looking for the owner of the high heels the other day. Right. Gong Shil said she had found them, but he refused to admit it. He said the shoe he was holding in his hand belonged to his wife. Jungwon turned around and ordered his assistant to bring another shoe. This was the one he had picked up from the hospital trash. The day before, Jungwon raised the shoe high and loudly declared that he had seen Jinju's husband throw the shoe into the trash can with his own eyes. Jungwon snatched the shoe from Jinju's husband's hand and compared it. Although they were identical in shape, they were not a pair because they were on the same foot. The shoe Gong Shil picked up and the one Jungwon picked up from the trash can were the perfect pair. The crowd began to gossip and doubt. Jungwon continued to make the final move. He ordered the staff to bring out Jinju's husband's lover. Sure enough, she was limping because she only had one shoe on her foot. The two people's evil plot was finally exposed to the light. Although with the current evidence, he might not be imprisoned immediately for murder, but his adultery and evil plot were exposed. Therefore, his true face was exposed and he was condemned by society. He will have to live in torment and hiding for the rest of his life. The most pitiful person in this story is Jinju's mother, but fortunately, she recognized the true face of her son-in-law. That night, Gong Shil attended a company party. A mean colleague secretly poured strong alcohol into her glass of coke to tease her. Gong Shil normally absolutely did not dare to drink alcohol because once her body had alcohol, it would become a vessel inviting ghosts to enter. When Gong Shil drank the wrong glass of water, she started to feel dizzy and had a headache. She immediately went out to the balcony to breathe some fresh air, but unfortunately, she saw the ghost of Heju. Heju was Jungwon's dead ex-girlfriend. Heju was standing there staring at Gong Shil. This time, Heju decided to borrow Gong Shil's body. Not long after, Gong Shil was possessed by Heju. She went to Jungwon's house. He was surprised to see that Gong Shil knew his house and that she came here at this hour. Heju looked at Jungwon passionately and called his name intimately, something that Gong Shil normally would never dare to do. Jungwon was very angry at this disrespect. Unexpectedly, she smiled and said that he looked very ugly when he was angry, just like when he scolded her in the past. This sentence made Jungwon stunned, because it was a familiar sentence that only Heju knew. He asked in a serious tone, "This is not funny at all." He asked her who she was. The next morning, Gong Shil woke up and was shocked to find Jungwon sleeping right next to her. At first, she thought she was dreaming. Unexpectedly, Jungwon opened his eyes and asked who she was. Gong Shil stammered out her name. When he heard that it was Gong Shil, Jungwon kicked her and she fell to the ground. Only then did she painfully realize that this was not a dream at all. Gong Shil asked Jungwon in confusion where this place was. He coldly replied that this was his house. She looked around curiously, but she did not feel too strange or panicked. When Jungwon saw this, he immediately wondered why she was so calm. Shouldn't she feel surprised and embarrassed? Gong Shil sighed and explained that this was nothing compared to what she had experienced. The last time she woke up, she found herself sleeping soundly in a grave outside the cemetery. Coincidentally, at that time, a family member came to visit. They suddenly saw her get up and ran away in fear. She confessed that last night she must have been possessed by a ghost, so she had no idea what happened next. She worriedly asked him if she had done anything too outrageous last night. He said thoughtfully that he had originally wanted to ask Heju for clues about the kidnappers back then, but she refused to tell him all the details of what happened that day. The story of the 10 billion won kidnapping back then had always been a painful thorn in his heart. Many years ago, Jungwon and Heju were kidnapped by a group of people. He was locked up alone in a dark warehouse. The kidnappers used him to blackmail his family. The ransom was a diamond necklace worth hundreds of billions of won. While they received the money and ran away, they took Heju hostage. Unexpectedly, their car crashed and caught fire. They took the necklace and escaped, leaving Heju trapped, dying in the fire. After last night's incident, Jungwon began to realize Gong Shil's usefulness. He told her to find a way to keep in touch with Heju's ghost. He must find clues about the kidnappers to get the diamond necklace back. He remembered that she once called herself his lucky star, so he suggested that she be his ghost radar. They would rely on Heju's guidance to find the lost property. Gong Shil was happy when Jungwon allowed her to stay by his side. She boldly offered to become his personal secretary for convenience. However, Jungwon criticized her, saying that the secretary was his his face, the face of Kingdom Group. Did Gongshil intend to leisurely sit in the luxurious secretary's office with this dirty and greasy hair? Gongshil immediately promised that she would wash her hair every day. Jungwon sets a condition that if Gongshil wants to be his secretary, she must have real ability. Gongshil confidently boasts that before the accident, she was also very talented. She was also an excellent student who graduated with honors from a top university in Korea. Even famous model Yi Ryung was once her inferior classmate, but after a tragic traffic accident, her life was completely turned upside down. In order to save her, her older sister spent all her life savings. After waking up from a long coma, she suddenly saw ghosts everywhere. This made it impossible for her to live a normal life, and she also suffered from insomnia and was shunned by everyone. She had lost her job before because of ghosts. Now, ironically, it was because of ghosts that she found a job opportunity with him. Jungwon felt a little shaken after hearing Gongshil's story. He gave her his business card with his phone number. This action made her feel extremely happy, as if she had found gold. In a luxurious makeup room, Yi Ryung and the assistant were talking about Gongshil. They recalled their school days. At that time, Gongshil was famous for her good grades, so she was called the Big Sun. Yi Ryung, although beautiful, was not as good at studying, so she was called the Little Sun. Yi Ryung hated that nickname because it made her feel like she was always in Gongshil's shadow. The female assistant flattered and comforted Yi Ryung, saying that she was now the brightest star, the real Big Sun. At that time, another female model sitting next to her was looking at herself in the mirror and smiling smugly. They had no idea that there was a strange ghost standing right next to her. The ghost whispered magical words into the girl's ear, saying, "I will turn you into the most beautiful woman in the world." When Yi Ryung saw the female model, she felt that she was just a product of plastic surgery. Yi Ryung was naturally much more beautiful. Yi Ryung stood up and confidently walked behind the other girl to compare her beauty. Unexpectedly, the ghost changed its target and turned to stare at Yi Ryung. It reached out to caress her face and whispered in her ear that she was now the most beautiful person here. Yi Ryung was mesmerized. She picked up the mirror, looked at herself, and muttered to herself, "That's right, now you are the most beautiful person." Yi Ryung remembered that Gongshil was currently working as a janitor at Kingdom, so Yi Ryung deliberately went there with the intention of showing off and humiliating Gongshil. At first, Yi Ryung pretended to enthusiastically greet Gongshil, making her feel quite shy. Then, Yi Ryung deliberately acted surprised when she saw Gongshil now having to clean the toilet. Gongshil was confused when she was startled when she saw a scary ghost following Yi Ryung. The ghost stared at Gongshil as if to warn her. Too scared, Gongshil didn't say anything and quickly ran away. This strange action was seen by Kang-woo. At first, he thought that Yi Ryung was using her power to bully Gongshil, so he approached to ask. Yi Ryung replied that she didn't know anything. She originally wanted to reminisce about the past when she met her old friend. Unexpectedly, Gongshil naturally ran away like she met her ghost. Yi Ryung thought that Gongshil was very close to Kang-woo, so she wanted to find a quiet place to talk to him privately. To get information, Kang-woo unexpectedly flatly rejected her invitation. She was shocked and surprised that a famous person like her was rejected. She asked him if he didn't want to have dinner with a stunningly beautiful girl like her. Kang-woo laughed and mocked that, if the girl was really beautiful, he would consider accepting. But where was Yi Ryung beautiful? This harsh statement was like a knife stabbing Yi Ryung's dark heart. She was angry and wanted to deal with this man. At that moment, the ghost appeared behind Yi Ryung and whispered to her, seducing her. It said that she could become more beautiful, so she should make herself more beautiful. Yi Ryung suddenly felt that she was ugly and needed to become more beautiful immediately. She started to be haunted and wanted to fix her face. Not long after, Yi Ryung appeared at a party with flashy makeup. Everyone was staring at her in amazement. Gongshil saw that the ghost was still following Yi Ryung and sucking her life force. If this continued, it would ruin Yi Ryung's beauty and career. Gongshil mustered up the courage to go to Yi Ryung and advised her to never listen to the words, "You are the most beautiful," again. Seeing that Yi Ryung was still confused, Gongshil continued to tell her not to listen to the words that told her to become more beautiful. Otherwise, she will become more and more pathetic like a monster. Look at yourself in the mirror. Then Gongshil quickly left because she was afraid that the ghost would attack her. At that time, two other models passed by and sneered at Yi Ryung's disastrous appearance. They felt that they were much more beautiful and classy than her. The ghost saw this and immediately changed its target. It glanced greedily and left Yi Ryong to fly after the two arrogant girls. A black smoke flew out from Yi Ryong's body. In an instant, Yi Ryong shivered and regained her normal state of consciousness. Looking in the mirror and seeing her clown-like makeup, she screamed in panic. She felt extremely ridiculous and embarrassed. The ghost had now found a new host, so it seemed that the two girls were about to be in big trouble. Gong Shil reported to Jungwon that she had resolved Yi Ryong's haunting problem smoothly. Jungwon nodded in satisfaction and suddenly remembered something important. He wanted to meet his partner, especially the ghost Hee-ju, so he asked Gong Shil to come over to his house for a drink. He hoped that Hee-ju might possess Gong Shil when she was drunk. That way, he could talk to her directly to ask about the lost money. He currently valued Gong Shil's ability to connect the living and the dead. At the same time, Secretary Kim came to inform him that their biggest business competitor wanted to meet Jungwon to discuss business. Jungwon had no choice but to bring Gong Shil along. He wanted her to observe the situation there, to see if there was any ghost haunting the competitor. If so, he could grasp the competitor's weakness. While waiting at the partner's office, Jungwon asked Gong Shil if she had seen Hee-ju around him recently. Gong Shil shook her head and said she hadn't. He began to think vaguely. Could it be that after that day, her wish was said she passed away and disappeared? Seeing Jungwon was absent-minded and sad, Gong Shil made up a story to comfort him. She said that she suddenly remembered. One time, Gong Shil heard Hee-ju say that she did not blame him for the past. She wanted him to cherish the present and live well and not be too sad. When Jungwon heard it, he almost believed it was true and was touched. But he suddenly remembered Hee-ju's personality. That girl would absolutely never say such cheesy words. When Jungwon found out that Gong Shil was lying to comfort him, he got really angry. He loudly scolded her for being a liar. Then he kicked her out. Seeing Jungwon angry, Gong Shil quickly apologized to him. She explained that she just wanted him to feel a little more comfortable. She sadly walked home with a heavy heart. At this moment, Secretary Kim ran in to inform Jungwon that the VIP guest would be late. The reason was because there had been a terrible accident on the highway recently. There were so many people dead that traffic was completely paralyzed. When Jungwon heard the news of the fatal accident, he suddenly remembered something. He asked Secretary Kim if anyone had called here just now. He was surprised and answered no. Jungwon slowly clenched his hands, and at the same time, a feeling of anxiety arose in his heart. At that time, Gong Shil was walking when she coincidentally passed by the scene of the terrible accident. She saw many bloody corpses and the ambulance sirens blaring. The ghosts of the victims began to appear everywhere. They climbed onto their bloody bodies and walked towards Gong Shil. She began to be extremely scared, sat down, covered her ears and closed her eyes. She felt like she was about to be surrounded and bitten by demons. Suddenly, a warm and strong hand was extended in front of her. Jungwon had appeared like a god. He pulled her up and hugged her tightly to protect her. He whispered that her lucky star had arrived. She was in his arms. All the scary ghosts around her disappeared. A rich lady wanted to find a marriage partner for her deceased grandson. The fortune teller opened the wooden box and showed her a photo of a potential girl. The fortune teller said that this girl was the same age as her deceased grandson and had the misfortune of dying in the same year as him. They seemed to be a good match. The matchmaker said that based on their horoscopes, the ghost marriage ceremony had been scheduled on a good day and month. She showed the lady her horoscope. The fortune teller also promised that after the marriage was successful, her grandson would no longer be lonely and would rest in peace in heaven. The lady nodded emotionally. She hoped that her beloved grandson could be comforted in the afterlife. Suddenly, the candle on the altar went out. It was obvious that the grandson's spirit was not satisfied, and he did not want to follow his grandmother's forced marriage arrangement. The fortune teller reassured him and said that she would continue to look for a more suitable partner until he was satisfied. At this time, Gong Shil was being persistently followed by a coffee-addicted ghost. He kept asking her to buy him coffee. She angrily waved her hand and told him to go away and not follow her anymore. Because she had no money, Kang-woo happened to pass by and saw her gesticulating and talking to herself. He thought that she was being harassed by a pervert or a bad person, so he ran after her to check and protect her. But when he got there, he still did not see anyone suspicious except her. She did not want to tell him the truth that she could see ghosts, because she was afraid that he would think she was crazy. If she said that she was being harassed by ghosts, it would be troublesome. Kang-woo kindly said that he had a way to deal with perverted stalkers. He would volunteer to be her personal bodyguard. Gong Shil was very happy when she heard that and smiled brightly like a blooming Biden's alba. The next day, she went to the company. Jungwon had prepared a new official job position for Gong Shil. He solemnly invited her inside to look at his private office. She happily walked in, but then then her smile faded. She silently cursed him for being stingy. The room he had arranged for her was actually an old, cramped warehouse filled with dusty junk. She felt endless disappointment in her heart. Suddenly, the automatic door opened. The coffee addict from earlier had still shamelessly followed her all the way here. She dejectedly went downstairs to buy him coffee. She mumbled to him as she walked. This scene was coincidentally seen by the fortune teller. Someone who had been in the business for a long time like her could tell with just a glance that Gong Shil had a special karma. Gong Shil can communicate with the dead. She immediately targeted Gong Shil for the ghost marriage, so she secretly followed Gong Shil. The fortune teller went to Junwan's aunt and asked her to call Gong Shil to the rich old lady's house. That old lady was not an ordinary person. She was the president of a large corporation, an important partner of kingdom. Unfortunately, her only grandson died of a serious illness at a young age. Gong Shil asked Jungwon if she really had to go to the president's house. She was worried that places like that were often filled with heavy yin energy, so there would be many ghosts. Jungwon remembered that his competitor was preparing to cooperate with the president, so he wanted her to go there to listen to the situation and see if they had any plans. Gong Shil felt a little scared and hesitated. Jungwon immediately tried to entice Gong Shil by saying that after she completed the mission, he would lend her the shelter. In other words, he would give her a tight hug. Hearing that attractive reward, her energy was immediately recharged, and she was eager to go. The fortune teller took Gong Shil to the lady's villa. When the old lady saw Gong Shil, she immediately revealed a satisfied smile. She was pleased because Gong Shil had a kind face. The fortune teller took out a bright red cheongsam that looked like a traditional wedding dress and told Gong Shil to try it on. The old lady sitting next to her looked at Gong Shil with expectant eyes. Since this was the boss's partner, Gong Shil could only reluctantly take the dress and change. While she was changing clothes in the room, the ghost of her nephew named Ji Woo suddenly appeared behind her through the mirror. Just as she was about to turn back to ask, Jungwon called. He asked her how things were over there. She honestly reported that the lady told her to change clothes. This outfit looked like a Chinese wedding dress. She also saw a young man's ghost here. Jungwon's mind was sharp, so he understood the problem immediately. They wanted to set a trap to force Gong Shil to marry the dead person, the ghost Ji Woo. Jungwon shouted on the phone to Gong Shil to take off the outfit immediately. Then she should run away from there immediately. But Gong Shil was still naive and did not realize the danger of this obsolete custom. She felt that she had not yet completed the task he gave her, so she hesitated. She quickly turned off the phone and then chased after the ghost Ji Woo to ask. Jungwon on the other end of the line felt extremely uneasy and angry. Why was this girl so stubborn? He told her to run away, but she did not listen. He decided to drive there himself to save the silly girl. Gong Shil still followed Ji Woo to his bedroom when he was alive. She felt the atmosphere inside was very strange and cold. Suddenly the door of the room slammed shut. It turned out that the fortune teller outside had locked the door and locked Gong Shil in. Gong Shil panicked and knocked on the door to ask someone to open it. The fortune teller shouted inside and told Gong Shil to stay there for a night to keep Ji Woo company. Only then could Ji Woo rest in peace and be liberated. Locked in the room, Gong Shil could only observe the surroundings. Suddenly, she saw Ji Woo standing sadly by the window. She regained her composure and slowly walked in that direction and tried to talk to him. She asked him if he had any unfulfilled wishes that he still missed here. At that time, Jungwon had driven to the president's villa in time. He rushed in and asked where Gong Shil was. The wife asked him again that Gong Shil was just a cleaning lady, so why did he have to personally come all the way here? The wife calmly said that she had something personal that she needed Gong Shil's help with. She will take good care of Gong Shil, so Jungwon can go home with peace of mind. Jungwon frankly reveals that he knows they are holding a ghost wedding ceremony for her nephew. The madam is angry that her plan was exposed, but Jungwon will not give in. He firmly says that she is his person. He must take her home right now. Jungwon goes straight upstairs to find the room where Gong Shil is locked. He pushes the maid, who is guarding the door, aside, but he finds the door is locked. He shouts loudly for the girl to quickly give him the key to open the door, but the maid is afraid of the boss, so she doesn't dare to do it. At that time, the chairman also comes and orders everyone to stand still and not open the door. When Jungwon is about to use force to break the door, the madam gives him a warning. She says that if he opens this door, he will not regret it. His competitor is looking for her to discuss a big project cooperation. If she changed her mind and joined hands with that that side, he would just think about the consequences for Kingdom Group. Junwan began to hesitate. He was a businessman, so he needed to consider the pros and cons. But thinking of Gong Shil, who was scared inside, Junwan quickly put everything aside and broke the door open. The door swung open. Gong Shil walked out safely. The lady thought everything was ruined. Unexpectedly, Gong Shil calmly said that Jiwoo had something to say to her. Suddenly, Jiwoo borrowed Gong Shil's body and spoke words of reproach. He said that grandma and the fortune teller were sick or something. Why did they do this? He told her he didn't want to get married. Next time, don't bring those flashy dolls or force living people to do such disgusting things. Then he turned to point at the fortune teller's face and told her to get rid of this swindler. The lady was stunned to realize that it was indeed the arrogant tone of her beloved grandson. She burst into tears. It turned out that Jiwoo refused to be released because he was still attached to his unfinished first love. He was a poor milkman. It wasn't because he hadn't gotten married that he couldn't be released. The lady believed that Gong Shil had really met Jiwoo's spirit. She choked up and confided in him, hoping that Gong Shil could help Jiwoo fulfill his last wish. She pointed to the vase of roses that always bloomed in the room, and said that after Jiwoo died, this vase of roses would still bloom like that without ever withering. Maybe this was a message from him. Since childhood, Jiwoo had been thin, weak, and introverted. He didn't like to talk to anyone, and didn't have any friends. He kept everything to himself, and never shared it with his family. At that moment, Gong Shil saw Jiwoo's ghost standing by the window. He held out his hand with a sad expression, his eyes staring out into the garden. Gong Shil curiously went to see and saw a milkman leaving in the yard. She hurriedly ran after him, but he was already gone. Gong Shil asked the maid, and she learned that there used to be a milkman who often came to their house. He was the only person Jiwoo was willing to open up to and talk to. They were even very close friends. Then Gong Shil told Jongwon this story. She speculated that the person Jiwoo could never forget was the milkman. After Jongwon heard this, he froze for a few seconds. It turned out that the chairman's nephew had such a special love. When the wife saw the two whispering to each other, she immediately asked Gong Shil if she had discovered something. Gong Shil honestly wanted to tell the truth, but Jongwon quickly covered her mouth and stopped her. He lied that they were not sure yet and needed to verify further. Then he pulled Gong Shil outside. When they arrived safely, Gong Shil wondered why Jungwon had dragged her away without letting the chairman know the truth. Jungwon asked with a serious face, did Gong Shil want to tell her that her only grandson liked men? This would be such a big shock that she might faint on the spot. Gong Shil was worried about what they should do. Jungwon suggested that they just tell someone randomly. For example, a nurse at the hospital or a piano teacher. It would be much better for his reputation and her health. But Gong Shil disagreed because she felt that it was not good to deceive others, especially the deceased. Gong Shil said that the madam was an experienced person after all. Moreover, she loved her grandson so much. Whatever the truth was, she should know clearly. After thinking for a while, Jongwon finally nodded in agreement with Gong Shil's straightforward opinion. The two of them went to the local milk station. They asked if anyone knew Ji Woo. A girl who was arranging milk heard this and turned around. She had short hair and a tomboyish style. The girl confirmed that she used to deliver milk to Ji Woo regularly. Gong Shil was surprised and asked if the milkman wasn't a boy. The girl smiled shyly and explained that she used to have short hair like a boy, so people often mistook her. The co-worker next to her teased her even more. He said that she looked like a girl, but actually had a boyish personality. The girl made a familiar gesture of rubbing her nose, just like Ji Woo's habit when he was alive. Gong Shil saw that gesture and immediately confirmed that Seoha was the girl Ji Woo had been thinking about day and night. Seoha began to tell their story. One time, she clumsily dropped a carton of milk on the ground, right in front of Ji Woo. The picky young master immediately scolded the delivery girl for being careless and causing the milk carton to be deformed and ugly. Seoha stubbornly retorted that even if the carton was deformed, the milk inside would still taste just as good. Ji Woo still insisted that even if it was, he didn't like it to look ugly. It was just like Seoha's sloppy appearance. Seoha felt that she was unlucky to have met this picky customer. She angrily said that she also didn't like unlucky things like him. Ji Woo playfully sprayed her with a garden hose to tease her. When she was soaked, he was surprised to discover that this ugly delivery person turned out to be a girl. From then on, the two of them began to become close. They shared their joys and sorrows with each other, and their feelings blossomed blossom gently. But no one expected that their love story would end tragically before it could fully begin. Ji-woo's illness suddenly relapsed. Before he could say goodbye to her, he had to leave this world forever. Gong-sil led Seo-ha to the vase of roses in Ji-woo's room. Seo-ha burst into tears, expressing her sincere feelings that she had been holding back for so long. Ji-woo's ghost stood next to her and gently placed a kiss on Seo-ha's lips. Then he whispered his final farewell. Immediately, the roses that were blooming suddenly wilted, as if their wish had been fulfilled and their souls had been liberated. The next day, Jungwon happily informed Gong-sil that his wife had agreed to sign a cooperation contract with him. He generously praised her for her great achievement this time. But contrary to his excitement, she was sad. She confided that she wanted to live a normal life like everyone else. Kang-woo said he liked Gong-sil, but she did not dare to open her heart because she was afraid that if he knew the secret of her seeing ghosts, he would run away. Hearing this, Jungwon immediately comforted Gong-sil, but his tone sounded like he was mocking her. He said that compared to the first time he saw her with her hair disheveled like a crazy ghost, she now looked much more human. Then he lowered his voice and became more sincere. He advised her not to worry too much. Everything would turn out well. Gong-sil laughed at herself for being ridiculous and greedy. After finding a safe haven in Jungwon, she started to want more. She wanted love and her own happiness. People are truly greedy. Just a little comfort makes them expect more. At the company cafeteria, several young employees were having lunch together. After eating for a long time, they got bored and decided to tell ghost stories to make the fun more lively and scary. When the group reached the thrilling climax, Kang-woo just sat there silently eating. He didn't say anything, but his attitude wasn't very good. It was obvious that he didn't want to participate in discussing this scary topic. Gong-sil asked him quietly if he didn't like listening to ghost stories. He tried to act calm and answered yes, because such nonsense stories were not interesting, but his hand holding the spoon was shaking, showing that he was very scared. A male colleague liked to joke and said that people said that whenever you tell a ghost story, there will be a ghost standing nearby eavesdropping. The atmosphere suddenly became cold and quiet. Gong-sil also said that it was true. There was a long-haired female ghost standing behind him, listening. When Kang-woo heard that, he couldn't stand it anymore. He stood up angrily and said that he hated the most when he told ghost stories to scare others. He hated people who opened their mouths and said ghosts and spirits. After saying that, he immediately left, leaving Gong-sil bewildered. She felt confused. It was hard to find someone who liked her, but ironically, that person was the most afraid of ghosts in the world. She didn't know what to say and how to confess to him. That same night, Jungwon's uncle, the vice president, stayed late at the shopping mall to check security. He heard a strange sound coming from the end of the dark hallway. Following the sound, he stopped in front of the warehouse door, where Gong-sil was temporarily working. The uncle tiptoed inside and found something hiding behind a pile of cardboard boxes. He curiously approached to examine it. Suddenly, he screamed loudly when a dark figure rushed out and attacked him. He held his painful hand and quickly ran away. The next morning, he said that his hand was bitten by a dog, but looking at the swollen wound, everyone thought it looked more like a human bite. All the security guards were summoned to the scene to search for the culprit. Gong-sil also curiously followed there. When Jungwon saw the torn snacks lying on the floor, he suspected Gong-sil of secretly bringing a dog to the company to raise. Gong-sil wrongly explained that she couldn't even feed herself, so where would she get the money to raise a dog? Jungwon looked closely on the ground and discovered a dog collar that had fallen. Pil-sung's name was engraved on it. It seemed that a dog had really sneaked in. Gong-sil held 2 sausages in her hands and walked around to lure the dog. She saw a ghost sitting next to the trash can, so she asked him if she had seen a dog run by, but he coldly refused to answer her. Gong-sil turned to Jungwon and told him that there was another ghost hiding in the bathroom. She would go there to inquire. In another development, Yi Ryung was waiting for the elevator. A strange man wearing a baseball cap was secretly following her. Suddenly, Yi Ryung accidentally dropped the things in her bag on the ground. The man stared at the thick wallet. Greed arose, urging him to quickly run to grab the wallet and run away. Kang-woo, who was patrolling nearby, heard the screams, so he quickly ran over. But when he arrived, the robber had already run away. He quickly used the walkie-talkie to notify all the security guards to block the entrances. Then he turned to kindly ask Yi Ryung if she was okay. She said she was so scared that her soul had left her body. Her waist was also hit and it hurt so much. Seeing her pitiful appearance, he gallantly took off his uniform jacket and put it on her. With a masculine strength, he picked her up and took her to the medical room. The romantic atmosphere that surrounded him made Yi Ryung's heart flutter. The robber tried to run to the emergency exit. He hurriedly pushed the door open to escape, but unfortunately for him, Jung-won and Gong-sil had just arrived. Seeing someone blocking his way, he panicked and changed direction to run into another hallway. Gong-sil went to the front of the warehouse and saw a huge German shepherd standing there with its eyes bloodshot and scary. She ran to tell Jung-won that she found the dog, but he looked in the direction she pointed but saw nothing. It turned out that the dog was a ghost dog. Jung-won, with his sharp mind, started to analyze. The man who broke in brought the dog's collar. It proved that the two of them were very close. If they followed this ghost dog, they would definitely find out where its owner was hiding. Gong-sil said that the dog wanted to take her somewhere. She was about to follow him when he grabbed her hand and stopped her. The dog immediately disappeared. He was determined not to let her go. Yi Ryung had just been attacked and had to go to the hospital. That guy was very dangerous. What if Gong-sil followed him now and he hurt her? Moreover, Jung-won had already called the police. They should leave the matter of arresting him to the police. She begged him to let her go because the dog did not go with the man to protect him. It just stood there waiting for her. Its eyes were sad, so there must be something hidden. Jung-won once again emphasized that Gong-sil absolutely must not go. Safety comes first. Gong-sil felt warm inside. She thought he was worried about her safety. She smiled with emotion. Unexpectedly, his expression changed immediately, and he coldly said that if she got hurt, who would be his ghost radar? She should not be so sentimental. Kang-woo went to find Gong-sil to ask her. He said that he heard people saying that she often talked to dogs alone, but when he checked the security cameras, there was no dog. Gong-sil was about to take this opportunity to tell the truth about her special ability, but she suddenly remembered his harsh attitude the other day when people were talking about ghosts, so she stopped and did not say anything more. Gong-sil stammered that she was actually talking to a friend on the phone. That person's nickname was Dog. Kang-woo half believed her when he heard her forced explanation. Jung-won was wandering around when he suddenly saw the ghost dog. Moreover, he even saw several dancers performing to a song with a fire beat. He was startled and patted his cheeks a few times. Could it be that after spending so much time with Gong-sil, he had also started to get infected with a sixth sense? He then told Gong-sil about this strange dream. Of course, she didn't really believe that he saw a ghost. Jung-won decided to give it a try. He turned on the song. Sure enough, the ghost dog heard the familiar sound and immediately appeared, wagging its tail and jumping happily. Jung-won sighed and said he didn't want this dog to haunt him anymore, so they must find its owner to see if it has any unfulfilled wishes. From there, they will resolve it once and for all. At this time, Yi Ryung went to Kang-woo to thank him for saving her and taking her to the hospital. Then, she took out 2 VIP tickets to an expensive solo concert to give him. As a result, he just indifferently replied with thanks and was about to leave. She was bewildered and called out why he didn't intend to set a place and time to meet her. He naively asked why he had to set a date to meet her. She angrily explained that she was repaying him with 2 tickets because she wanted to invite him to go with her. Did he understand? He asked another question that made her freeze again. He said if he refused to go with her, would she ask for the tickets back? Yi Ryung tried to keep her arrogant face and said that she was a famous person, so going with strangers would be a bit troublesome. But if she went with her benefactor, it would be safer. He should have known better and shown some sincerity. Kang-woo didn't care about that honor and flatly refused. He apologized because he already had someone he wanted to invite. Then he thanked her for the tickets. After saying that, he walked away, leaving Yi Ryung standing there angrily. Kang-woo turned around and went to find Gong-sil. He happily held up the tickets and asked her to go to the concert together tonight. Gong-sil worriedly said that the theater was dark, so she often panicked and screamed. Sometimes she even wanted to run out. Kang-woo smiled and reassured her not to worry. He was here and he would protect her. The two happily locked in their date for tonight. Gong-sil and Jung-won followed the ghost dog's lead to a home decor store. Gong-sil sensed it and said that the dog's owner might be hiding on the 2nd floor. The two of them tiptoed and prepared to go up there. Just then, Secretary Kim called and panicked, telling him that he had found something. The dog was a professional military dog. It died of illness a few days ago, but its owner was a private named Pil Song, who was holding a rifle and had deserted the barracks. He was an extremely dangerous criminal. At that time, on the second floor, Pil-sung was holding a gun in his hand, and his eyes were fixed on the photos taken with his beloved dog. He muttered that he would quickly go find it. Memories flooded back, reminding him of his days in the army. He and the dog shared headphones to listen to music and danced happily together. They were best friends in the midst of iron discipline. One day, he failed to complete a training mission, causing the whole team to be punished. The dark captain was cut off from his leave. The angry captain kicked Pil-sung's leg hard. Pil-sung was then brutally beaten. At that moment, the loyal dog rushed forward, baring its fangs and growling, wanting to bite the captain. To protect its owner, he was scared and let Pil-sung go. Then the captain punished Pil-sung by making him carry a heavy backpack and fell running until he was satisfied. When Pil-sung ran until he collapsed from exhaustion, the kind dog brought him a bottle of water. He hugged it and said that it was lucky it was his companion, otherwise he would have died of loneliness. But tragedy struck when the dog became seriously ill. The vet determined that it could no longer serve in the army. They needed to inject it with medicine to let it die peacefully. Pil-sung knelt down and begged to be allowed to take care of it. He promised that after he was discharged from the army, he would take the dog home to raise. But the harsh military regulations did not allow it. What was even more cruel was that his superiors forced him to personally inject the lethal injection into his best friend. Pil-sung cried and trembled as he personally injected the deadly injection into the dog. After the dog died, his spirit completely collapsed. That day, he was again dragged out by the captain for no reason, and beaten and humiliated. He could not bear it anymore. The pent-up resentment exploded, so he fought back against the captain. He grabbed the gun and fled the barracks. After Jong-won learned that Pil-sung had a gun, he panicked and immediately pulled Gong-sil outside. He shouted that this was not a place to play. Pil-sung had a gun. The police and army cars would be here soon, so let them handle this. But Gong-sil saw the ghost of the dog whining and crying miserably, begging. She really couldn't stand seeing that scene. Jung-won told Gong-sil to stop worrying about other people's business. She should go home and take a shower and put on makeup. She had a date to go to a concert with Kang-woo tonight. He tried to pull her away, but she firmly pulled her hand back, saying that she might have become a crazy girl. She had already gotten into it, and there was no turning back. She would go in there and console him, then she would leave quickly. Gong-sil ignored Jung-won's desperate calls and followed the dog into the store alone. At that moment, Pil-sung was desperately holding a gun to his head, preparing to do something stupid. In a moment of danger, a pile of furniture next to him suddenly collapsed. It was the ghost dog's influence. Pil-sung was startled and pulled the trigger, but the bullet missed his head. Jung-won heard the gunshots and his heart stopped. He rushed inside regardless of the danger. Pil-sung held the gun and walked out into the hallway. The staff and customers in the restaurant were scared. They pushed each other and ran downstairs and accidentally bumped into Gong-sil, who was coming, so they carried her outside. When Jung-won rushed in, he passed by her without realizing it. He thought she was still upstairs facing the criminal, so he ran up. Coincidentally, he ran into Pil-sung, who was holding a gun. Pil-sung pointed the gun at Jung-won, so he quickly raised his hands in surrender. Jung-won looked into Pil-sung's eyes and realized that they were not the eyes of a cold-blooded killer, but of someone in extreme despair. Jung-won calmly persuaded Pil-sung to put down the gun. If he died, nothing would be solved. Pil-sung put down the gun and let Jung-won go. Then he sat down on the floor and raised the gun again, intending to do something stupid again. Jung-won originally wanted to take the opportunity to run away, but when he saw the dog collar still tightly in his hand, he stopped. He turned around and threw the collar at Pil-sung. Jung-won said that Pil-sung's dog was always with him. Pil-sung yelled, "What nonsense Jung-won was talking about? It was dead." Jung-won continued to say that he knew the dog was dead, but he could see it. It always wanted to protect Pil-sung. It didn't want Pil-sung to do anything stupid. Right now it was reaching out to comfort Pil-sung. Right next to him, Pil-sung was stunned and tears fell from his eyes. He wondered if it wanted him to live a better life. At that moment, the special police force rushed in. Pil-sung gave up and threw the gun in his hand down and surrendered. He was restrained by the police and pressed down on the floor, but a relieved smile appeared on his lips because he finally felt forgiveness and comfort from his best friend. Before Pil-sung was taken away, Jung-won told him to come find me after you finished your military service. I will arrange a decent job for you in the kingdom. When outside, Jung-won sternly warned Gong-sil that next time she must listen to him. She must not act recklessly like that. He asked her if she knew how worried he was. After this life-and-death incident, their relationship became closer and more understanding. After a terrifying day, Gong-sil went home and slept soundly, forgot that she had an appointment to to go to the concert with Kang Woo. The poor guy still patiently waited for her in front of the theater until late at night. The person who came was Yi Kyung. At a small park, two boys named Song Mo and Song Jun were playing on a swing together. The ball in Song Jun's hand fell to the ground and rolled into the bushes. The boy ran to pick it up. Suddenly, from the darkness, a ghostly hand reached out and beckoned to the boy. Song Mo turned around and saw that the swing beside him was empty. He panicked and ran to look for his younger brother. He only saw the ball lying on the ground. He loudly called his younger brother's name. Finally, he saw his younger brother standing absent-mindedly in a hidden corner of the park. His eyes were still staring at a bush. Sung Mo asked why Sung Jun was standing there without saying anything. Sung Jun did not answer. He just pointed to an old porcelain doll lying in the bush. Then he was about to go over there and pick it up. Sung Mo quickly stopped Sung Jun and told him not to hold things carelessly. Someone might have left it here. If it was still here tomorrow, it would mean someone else had thrown it away. It would not be too late for them to pick it up then. Sung Jin looked at the doll with regret and reluctantly followed Sung Mo. But before they could take a few steps, Sung Jin turned his head and looked. He saw three ghost children standing next to the doll. They waved goodbye to the boy in a friendly manner. The innocent boy also waved back. At the same time, the doll's eyes suddenly lit up and circled around in a ghostly manner. The Korean version of Annabelle had awakened. The next day, the two children returned to the park to play. Sung Jin saw that the doll was still in the same place. Sung Mo kept his promise and agreed to let Sung Jun take the doll home. The moment Sung Jun held the doll's hand, its mouth suddenly smiled in a ghostly manner. Ever since Sung Jun brought the doll home, strange things often happened in the small house. Sung Jun began to show strange signs. The boy often sat and mumbled to himself, as if he was playing with someone. Too scared, Sung Mo quickly ran to find Gong Shil for help. Gong Shil followed Sung Mo into the house. Immediately, she saw three ghosts of children running around the room. She saw Sung Jun sitting still on the bed and scared. Sung Mo worriedly said that he wanted to go find his mother and bring her home. When Gong Shil touched Sung Jun, she was startled because his whole body was cold as ice. She immediately told him to wait a moment while she went to find medicine. At this time, the three ghosts appeared again, surrounding the hospital bed. They whispered to Sung Jun that his mother was busy working all day to earn money, so she didn't care about him. He should follow them and be their friend forever. At the critical moment, the mother ran home in a panic. She rushed to hug her little son and cried out in pain. The sacred maternal love radiated a strong warmth. The mother immediately picked up the boy and took him to the hospital. The three ghosts of children saw that scene and backed away in disappointment. They realized that they could not harm children who had a loving and protective family. When Gong Shil saw the three ghost children, she sternly asked if they wanted to harm Sung Jun. Hearing that, they were scared and immediately ran away. Gong Shil chased them to the living room, but she discovered that they had disappeared without a trace. She looked around and saw the porcelain doll lying there, looking very suspicious. It turned out that the three ghost children had taken refuge in this doll. The next day, Gong Shil secretly brought the haunted doll to Jungwon's office. When Jungwon entered and saw the doll on the table, he frowned and asked Gong Shil what she was doing. Gong Shil replied that she felt this doll was very dangerous. It contained a ghost, so she intended to temporarily place it in his place. Because he was a strong Yang shelter, he angrily asked why she dared to place such a dangerous thing in his place. Did she want to assassinate him or put him in danger? She said that last time he said he wasn't afraid of these ghosts. He said he wasn't afraid if he couldn't see them. Jungwon angrily said that it was in the past, because yesterday he almost got shot. But at this sensitive moment, she didn't ask him if he was okay, but instead brought this dangerous thing here to scare him. Gong Shil hesitantly asked again with sparkling eyes, "Do you want her to worry about you?" She explained that she felt that he was a strong and arrogant person, so he probably wouldn't like her caring and worrying too much. That's why she held back from saying those cheesy words. She timidly asked again, "Can she say it now?" Jungwon pretended to be arrogant and raised his chin. "Okay, then I'll let her speak." He wanted to hear how worried she was about him. She kindly asked if he was scared yesterday. Jungwon heard that and nodded in rare agreement. Gong Shil took out a bottle of herbal sedatives from her pocket and gave it to him. She said that when she was scared of ghosts, she often drank this. It was very effective. Jungwon took the bottle of medicine, but wondered why she didn't leave this doll in Kangwoo's security room. Kangwoo was also a man with strong Yang energy, wasn't he? Gong Shil honestly replied that Kangwoo was most afraid of ghosts. What if he was scared to death by this doll? She would be heartbroken. Jungwon's expression immediately changed with jealousy. He returned the bottle of medicine to her hand and coldly told her to take it and drink it. Now, she should take that evil doll and get out of his sight right away. Gongshil had no other choice but to take the doll home. She put it in her shabby office. Then she began to interrogate it, asking why they would harm innocent children. As she spoke, she shook the doll continuously to wake up the ghosts inside. Suddenly, Kangwoo pushed the door open and entered. He was surprised and asked what she was doing. Was she talking to herself again? Gongshil was startled and a little embarrassed and confused. Could it be that this time her secret could no longer be hidden? Kangwoo walked closer and seriously said that he often saw her talking to the air and that she acted very strangely. What happened to her? Did she have any psychological difficulties? She didn't know how to explain so that she wouldn't be considered crazy. Seeing her silence, Kangwoo sighed and said that in fact he had an old classmate who had the same symptoms as her. That friend also often talked to himself and stared into space. Gongshil curiously asked if he was in a mental hospital now. Kangwoo shook his head and smiled and said no. That friend is currently working at NASA. It is said that people who dare to imagine richly have outstanding creativity. His sympathetic and surprising words made Gongshil stunned with emotion. She felt much more relieved and comfortable because he did not judge her as crazy. Not long after, Secretary Kim caught a cold and asked for leave. Gongshil was summoned by Jungwon to work in his place for a day as his temporary secretary. In the director's office, she was very curious about his expensive astronomical telescope placed by the poor window. She was eager to go there to study it. Seeing this, Jungwon followed her. He enthusiastically introduced her to how to use it and what could be seen through the lens. To adjust the focus for her, he leaned closer and put his arm around her to adjust the lens. The close distance made Gongshil suddenly have a strange feeling. Her heart beat faster than usual. She was confused and quickly escaped from his arms. Jungwon misunderstood her strange reaction and asked if she saw a ghost. Again, she didn't dare admit that she was moved, so she lied and said that she suddenly remembered the fear of being scared by ghosts before and was a little startled. At the Kingdom shopping mall, a young woman was taking her son shopping. Little Woo Jin panicked and told his mother that his school bag had disappeared, but his cold mother only glanced at him. Then she told him that he had lost it himself, so he should go find it himself because she didn't have time. Poor Woo Jin ran everywhere to find his school bag. Then he bent down under the table to check. Underneath there was a child ghost, staring at him with sad eyes. It whispered and invited Woo Jin to follow it. The two children held hands and walked to Gongshil's warehouse. Woo Jin stood in front of the ghostly porcelain doll. The doll opened its mouth to talk and enticed the boy to take it with him. It said that they could be friends because they were both lonely children who were not loved by anyone. Hearing those sympathetic words, Woo Jin hugged the doll tightly and quietly left. Gongshil saw from afar the silhouette of the boy holding the familiar doll. She was startled to realize that it was the doll that contained the spirit that she was keeping. She quickly chased after him, but unfortunately, Woo Jin and his mother had already gotten in the car and left the mall. The mother kept scolding Woo Jin for not taking care of his belongings properly. She threatened that once he got home, she would teach him a lesson. With Kangwoo's help, Gongshil found the woman's contact information. Gongshil called urgently to say that the doll her son brought back was problematic and very dangerous. Gongshil told the woman to quickly return it to her, but the woman coldly replied that she did not see any doll. Then she hung up. Gongshil was worried, so she wanted to ask Jungwon to go with her to the boy's house to solve the problem. But Jungwon refused and said he didn't want to waste precious time on these things. She shouldn't bother with other people's business anymore. After returning home, the mother took out a long umbrella and slowly walked towards her son's room with a murderous look on her face. Woo Jin was sitting in the corner of the room whispering to the doll. When he saw his mother enter, the boy was so scared that he trembled. He clasped his hands together and kept crying and apologizing, but the cruel mother raised the umbrella and hit the boy hard and repeatedly. Woo Jin's painful screams echoed in the closed room, but no one knew. Gongshil was extremely worried about the doll. Kangwoo found Woo Jin's lost school bag at the mall. When Gongshil opened it to see the paintings inside, a feeling of extreme unease suddenly came over her. The picture shows a boy surrounded by darkness. In every picture, the boy is crying blood. She knows she has to find the boy's house immediately. Taking advantage of the moment when Woo Jin's mother just left the supermarket, Gongshil secretly unlocked the door and entered the house. She carefully observed the cold house. When she saw the doll lying on the ground, she asked the three ghosts of children who were around where Woo Jin was. They pointed to the closed wardrobe. At the same time, Jungwon went to Gongshil's office. When Jungwon saw Woo Jin's forgotten school bag, he curiously picked up the sketch sketchbook to look at it. Being a sensitive person, he was surprised to realize that these drawings revealed a terrible truth. This child's mother was most likely a child abuser. He began to worry about Gongshil's safety when she went there alone. At Wu Jin's house, Gongshil opened the wardrobe door and was shocked to see Wu Jin lying unconscious inside. His body was covered with bruises. She quickly carried him out. When Gongshil was about to take Wu Jin to the emergency room, his mother suddenly returned home. Gongshil insisted that she needed to take the boy to the hospital immediately because his condition was very critical. However, the angry mother rushed in and yelled that this was her family's matter and not Gongshil's. She wanted Gongshil to let go of her child. She wanted to snatch Wu Jin back and loudly chase Gongshil out. When Gongshil hugged Wu Jin and ran outside to ask for help, she met Junwan coming. Seeing that situation, he did not hesitate to rush in and hug the child from Gongshil. The two quickly took Wu Jin to the hospital. At the hospital, the doctor examined the boy's whole body. When the clothes were removed, everyone was stunned. On that small body were crisscrossed new and old wounds, scar after scar. No one could believe that a mother could be so cruel. She had the heart to brutally attack her own child. Gongshil went out into the hospital hallway and said that she knew that inside this doll were the souls of children who had suffered the most misfortune. She told them about the painful pasts of the three children's ghosts. One of them was kicked out of the house by his stepmother in the middle of a cold winter night and froze to death in the snow. A girl was beaten and abused to death by her game-addicted father. A boy was abandoned by his parents and locked in the house, leading to his death of hunger and thirst. They all longed for love and protection, but unfortunately, when they died, they only had the lifeless doll to keep them company. Gongshil choked up and said that she understood the pain that the children had to endure. When the three children heard this, they immediately appeared. They were all sensible children. Now that their wish to save Wu Jin had been fulfilled, it was time for them to leave and be released. They smiled and waved goodbye to Gongshil. Junwan stood next to her. Although he couldn't see, he silently felt everything and held her hand to comfort her. The two returned to the hospital but were arrested by the police. It turned out that Wu Jin's mother had reported them to the police for illegal entry and kidnapping. Both were taken to the police station for questioning. However, justice was served. The evil mother was quickly arrested for serious child abuse. Gongshil and Junwan were declared innocent and released. When they left the police station, Junwan saw the scratch on Gongshil's face caused by the struggle with Wu Jin's mother. He stared at the wound with heartache and pity. Kongwu stood from afar and saw this scene. An indescribable sadness welled up in his heart. It felt like he was too late. On the other hand, Junwan also seemed to have fallen into a love trap with no way out. He confessed to Gongshil that a crazy and bright sun had appeared in his dark world for the first time. At first, he thought that he would chase her away no matter what, but when he woke up, he was instead pulled deeper into her dark yet humane world. Although he also wanted to struggle to escape, today at the police station, he realized that he had no way to escape. Gongshil innocently said that something was beating strangely in Junwan's left chest. He held out his hand for her to hold. She reached up to touch his face and asked him if he felt anything wrong when she touched his face like that. Did he feel uncomfortable? He smiled helplessly and said, "Do you really see me as a lifeless marble shelter that can't feel anything?" At a luxury hotel belonging to the Kingdom Group, a group of girls were playing happily in the swimming pool. Suddenly, a demonic hand appeared under the water. It reached out and grabbed a girl's ankle, then pulled her down. After being dragged to the bottom of the pool, the girl saw a terrifying ghostly face glaring at her. She was so scared that she opened her mouth wide and drank water. The lifeguard quickly discovered and jumped in to save her and brought her to shore safely. There had been at least 3 consecutive mysterious drownings here. Junwan felt that things were not simple. There was definitely something hidden. He went to find Gongshil and asked if there were water ghosts in this world. Gongshil fearfully replied yes, there were all kinds of ghosts. One time, when she was playing with her sister by the riverbank, a water ghost grabbed her leg and dragged her down. She almost drowned. Since then, every time she heard the word water ghost, her legs would go weak and she could not stand. She firmly said that she did not want to see the water ghost again. Seeing that Gongshil was so scared, Junwan did not want to force her to help him catch the ghost. He wanted to find a gentler solution. Junwan asked Secretary Kim to bring a discount coupon for a luxury hotel stay to Gongshil and told her to invite her friends to go on a trip together. Gongshil was extremely happy when she heard that. She did not know that this was just a sweet trap of Junwan. However, Gongshil's best friend suddenly suddenly had something to do and could not go, so she could only carry her suitcase to the hotel alone. Jungwon happened to be there too. He asked her to go out for a romantic dinner. He also told her to meet her at the pool in 2 hours. When Gongshil returned to her hotel room, she felt uneasy. She lay on the bed and imagined all the romantic scenarios that could happen. A while later, the waiter brought a gorgeous party dress that Jungwon had sent. Gongshil opened it and saw that the dress was so beautiful. She smiled happily. That evening, Gongshil wore a beautiful floral dress and went to the swimming pool as promised. But when she just arrived, she heard Jungwon on the phone instructing the staff. He said that there was a problem in the swimming pool. They should quickly send someone to check it thoroughly. Gongshil stood there, dumbfounded. She suddenly remembered what Jungwon had asked her about the water ghost the day before. Only then did she realize that Jungwon had called her here, given her a beautiful dress, or sent her on a vacation, all just to use her to catch ghosts for him. Gongshil was extremely disappointed. She felt deeply hurt. She immediately turned around and ran back to her room to change out of her gorgeous dress and put on normal clothes. She felt extremely angry and heartbroken. Jungwon turned back but didn't see Gongshil. He remembered her disappointed eyes when she left. He knew for sure that she had misunderstood. He quickly ran to find her. On the way to the lobby, Gongshil was pointed at and laughed at by the hotel staff, saying that she was poor and must have been kicked out of the party by the director. Jungwon caught up with Gongshil and asked why she had changed her dress. Gongshil smiled and tried to hide her sadness. She said it was not convenient to walk around in a dress. She was used to dressing like this. Jungwon looked at Gongshil and sincerely said that she was very beautiful just now. After saying that, he grabbed her hand and pulled her in front of the staff. He said it was okay. There was nothing scary here. What was scarier than ghosts was the scrutinizing eyes of humans. When Gongshil heard Jungwon say that to protect her, her heart felt like it was revived. All the sadness in her heart disappeared. The two happily talked to each other again. Then they held hands and went to the swimming pool to carry out the ghost hunting mission. They observed for a while but did not see any ghosts appear. Gongshil worriedly wanted to go down near the pool to see what was going on. Jungwon quickly stopped her. He said that it might not appear until late at night. Gongshil bravely said that she wanted to investigate a bit so that if she met her later, she wouldn't be surprised. Gongshil told Jungwon that he had to remember that if he saw a water ghost pulling her, he would definitely have to save her quickly. Seeing her being so reckless, he started to feel sorry for her. He changed his mind and said that he would stop looking. They would go home and rest, wait a little longer, and then they would watch the fireworks and ignore the ghost. Right after that, the surface of the pool began to bubble with strange movements. Gongshil curiously went to the edge of the pool to watch. When the water ghost suddenly jumped up and tried to pull Gongshil's leg into the water, Jungwon quickly appeared and hugged her waist to pull her back. The heroic scene of saving the beauty happened in a split second. Gongshil trembled as she pointed and said that there really was a water ghost here. As soon as she finished speaking, the water ghost rose to the surface. But contrary to her terrifying imagination, she was sitting by the pool, leisurely applying makeup, lipstick, and powder like a lady. The two of them secretly followed the ghost. Gongshil commented that she went to the bathroom and even knocked on the door very politely. It seemed like she didn't know she was dead or something. Then the ghost went into the restaurant to eat and then sat reading the newspaper to relax. Finally, she went to the hotel's most luxurious presidential suite. Jungwon told the waiter to open the presidential suite door. The woman was leisurely sitting by the window, drinking wine and watching the extremely chill night view of the city. Jungwon told Gongshil to quickly go talk to her. Then he asked her to leave the hotel because she had affected the business of this place. When Gongshil passed by to convey the message, the haughty woman took out a VIP membership card, implying that she was a regular customer here, so she had the right to stay. Jungwon checked the customer information. It turned out that her name was Wang Ji-hae, the wife of a tycoon. The hotel manager said that when Mrs. Wang came here, he had a strong impression. She was very luxurious and had charisma. She had said that she was very satisfied with this hotel, so she wished she could stay here forever. Jungwon exclaimed, "Is that wish true? Even when she dies, she still doesn't want to leave." When the manager heard this, he was startled and corrected that how could she die? She was still alive, but she was just in a deep coma and being treated in the hospital. This was the first time Gong Shil had encountered a living ghost like this. Gong Shil turned back to advise the ghost that if she kept hanging around here and refused to return to her body, she might really die. But she didn't care and was still passionate about makeup and looking in the mirror. Jungwon suddenly remembered the information and shouted that she had a little daughter waiting at home. When mentioning her daughter's name, her ghost suddenly became stunned and her face changed color. Gong Shil continued that her daughter was still waiting for her day and night. She needed her mother, so she had to return to live to take care of her child. The sacred motherly love awakened her reason. Finally, she agreed to return to her body. She hoped that before leaving she could see the hotel's brilliant fireworks display one last time. Gong Shil put on a gorgeous evening gown and held Jungwon's hand as they walked to the pool. The woman's ghost also sat on a bench watching the fireworks in the night sky with them. After the fireworks ended, she smiled contentedly and disappeared into nothingness. At the hospital, the comatose woman finally slowly opened her eyes and woke up in the burst of happiness of the whole family. A famous pianist named Louis Jong is very loyal, but he has an unstable mentality. His wife unfortunately passed away due to illness. He was so heartbroken that he couldn't bear to bury her and instead froze her. He hoped that she would be resurrected, but he didn't know that his wife's ghost was always by his side, protecting and worrying about him. Today, Jungwon specially invited Louis Jang to the Kingdom Shopping Mall to perform piano at a big event, but he still couldn't get over the pain of losing his wife. In the waiting room, he planned to injure his hand by clamping it on the piano lid. That way, he would have a reason not to perform anymore. But in the end, he still didn't have the courage to do it. When Kangwoo and a colleague were on patrol, they passed by a ghost. Suddenly, Kangwoo's body shivered. He was already afraid of ghosts, but now he felt an unusual cold air, making him even more worried. He tiptoed to the music room to check. Louis Jang heard the noise and quickly hid in a hidden corner. Kangwoo shined his flashlight inside and vaguely saw half a head bobbing behind the piano. He was so scared that he screamed and kicked the ghost to the floor. His colleague heard the noise and quickly ran over to turn on the light. They were shocked to realize that the person Kangwoo knocked down was pianist Louis Jang. This time, Kangwoo seemed to have stepped on a landmine. Taking this opportunity, Louis Jang used the excuse of being attacked by the security guard and injuring his hand to blame Kangwoo and firmly refused the important performance. After Gong Shil found out about this, she wanted to go find Louis Jang to talk and explain. Of course, he was angry, so he couldn't give her a chance to meet him. No one knew where he went. At this time, Gong Shil saw the ghost of Louis Jang's wife appear. She was looking at Gong Shil with a pleading expression. She wanted Gong Shil to help her husband regain his spirit. In another development, Jungwon is preparing to go on a business trip to Shanghai for a week. Secretary Kim is worried, so he suggests that Jungwon should buy Gong Shil an amulet. He says that Gong Shil will be very scared when Jungwon is not by her side. The day before, he saw her secretly stealing one of his ballpoint pens for self-defense. Jungwon tells her to leave Gong Shil alone and thinks that it is unnecessary. But a while later, he secretly goes to a jewelry store and buys her a beautiful sun-shaped necklace. He holds the gift in his hand and just stands there, admiring it. He doesn't know how to give it to her in a cool and less awkward way. When Gong Shil runs to Jungwon's house, he is startled, thinking that she knows he bought the gift and came to get it. He quickly hides the necklace behind his back and explains. He tells her not to be delusional. He didn't buy it for her. Gong Shil asked Jungwon in confusion, "What are you talking about? She came here for something else." He was talking about her stealing his ballpoint pen as a talisman. "Right. Are you afraid of those things too?" Gong Shil nodded in agreement. Jungwon blamed Gong Shil for not telling him earlier. Then he asked her why she came here in such a hurry. She said she wanted to take care of artist Louis Jang's matter. His wife also followed Gong Shil here. She wanted to borrow his kitchen for a bit to make almond cakes. It turned out that Louis Jang was a crazy husband. From eating to dressing to tying his tie, everything was taken care of by his wife. Before performing, he had to eat almond cakes made by his wife. Only then could he feel secure on stage. When Gong Shil turned around to go into the kitchen, she accidentally bumped into Jungwon. Immediately, the ghost of Louis Jang's wife disappeared due to contact with Jungwon's yang energy. Gong Shil was very worried when she saw that, without her instructions, Gong Shil would not know how to make the cake. Jungwon thought for a moment, then he went to get a bottle of wine. He gave it to her and told her to drink it quickly. Drink the wine so that his wife could enter Gong Shil's body. That way, she could make the cake herself. Gong Shil was afraid because it was very dangerous. If something happened, she could take over Gong Shil's body and not leave. Jungwon was worried when he heard that. He quickly put the wine bottle in the cupboard. He sternly warned her not to drink alcohol. She must not do anything that would endanger her life. She obediently nodded. Luckily, after a while, the ghost of Louis Jang's wife regained her energy and came back to instruct Gong Shil on how to make the cake. Jung-won called Louis Jiang to invite him to his house to discuss the matter. When Louis Jiang arrived, Gong Shil brought out a plate of hot almond cake to offer him. Louis Jiang took a bite and was amazed. The taste and crispiness were very similar to the cake his wife used to make. Only his wife knew the secret recipe. Gong Shil gently said that Louis Jiang's wife had taught her how to make it. His wife asked Gong Shil to tell him that she was always by his side. She hoped that he could be strong and continue performing and live well. After hearing this, Louis Jiang's stiff fingers began to move flexibly again. In fact, there was no physical problem with his hand, it was just a mental illness that he was afraid of and did not want to perform without his wife. He emotionally grabbed Gong Shil's hand and begged. He begged her to let him talk to his wife directly once. Gong Shil shook her head and refused, saying that it was impossible. The world was different, so he should not get too deep into it. Before Jung-won went to the airport, he asked Gong Shil if she was scared to be home alone after he left for work. Gong Shil replied strongly that she was used to it and would be fine. Jung-won held out his hand and said that in that case, she should return the ballpoint pen she had stolen. She frowned with regret, but she reluctantly groped in her bag to return the pen. This was also her only talisman. Actually, Jung-won asked for the pen back so that she could have an excuse to give her the sun necklace. But she was afraid that he would really ask for it, so she pretended not to find it. She said she had forgotten it somewhere. She would come back and find it and return it later. After saying that, she ran away. Just like that, with her stupidity, Gong Shil missed out on Jung-won's meaningful gift. Gong Shil followed the guidance of Louis Jiang's wife's ghost to choose his performance outfit. While he was going into the dressing room, Gong Shil's sister had already come there. She started nagging Gong Shil about this artist. He couldn't do anything if he kept feeling depressed like this. Gong Shil wanted to let Louis Jiang's wife possess her for a while to comfort and take care of him one last time. Maybe he will get better. But Gong Shil's sister quickly interrupted. She told Gong Shil not to talk nonsense. It was really dangerous for Gong Shil. Louis Jiang was standing in the dressing room and he heard the whole conversation. A dark and selfish idea suddenly popped into his head. He wanted to see his wife again, at any cost, even if it meant sacrificing Gong Shil. Jung-won was at the airport and was about to leave. He remembered the story. Gong Shil told him about the ghost trash can uncle who used to sit on a bench in the park near the company. Jung-won decided to go there. He put the necklace on the bench next to the trash can. He muttered to the ghost uncle to guard him and pass a message to Gong Shil. After that, two girls passed by and wanted to sit down on the bench to rest. Suddenly the lid of the trash can next to him opened and closed with a bang, scaring the two girls away. It seemed that the ghost uncle had accepted Jung-won's request. In the waiting room, while Gong Shil wasn't paying attention, Louis Jiang secretly poured a large amount of sleeping pills into a cup of tea. After she fell into a coma, her consciousness weakened. At that time, he begged his wife to enter Gong Shil's body so that the two could reunite. Louis Jiang brought a cup of tea and offered it to Gong Shil to drink as thanks. She couldn't refuse, so she reluctantly drank it all. The door slowly closed. Gong Shil quickly felt sleepy and collapsed on the sofa in a coma. The ghost of Louis Jiang's wife saw him doing something foolish, but because of her husband's love and persistence, she was weak and quickly entered Gong Shil's body. Then she successfully took over Gong Shil's body. Jung-won's aunt and uncle went to the dressing room to chat. They suddenly saw Gong Shil wearing a luxurious black evening gown with sharp makeup and a strange look in her eyes. Moreover, Gong Shil was also making intimate gestures with Louis Jiang. Jung-won's aunt and uncle were extremely surprised. Then Louis Jiang told them that after the performance ended, he would take Gong Shil abroad. Jung-won's aunt and uncle, with their rich life experience, quickly realized the abnormality. They immediately called Jung-won to ask if he had broken up with Gong Shil. When they saw Gong Shil, it was as if she had turned into a completely different person. Then they saw her holding hands with Louis Jiang. It was said that they were about to run away abroad together. After Jung-won heard this, he immediately connected the events. He quickly understood the seriousness of the problem. Gong Shil was possessed by the ghost of Louis Jiang's wife. She was being taken advantage of. He immediately canceled the flight and returned. At this time, Louis Jiang told his wife in Gong Shil's body to quickly pack up. He would go on stage to perform one last song for the audience. Then they would run away and be together forever. But surprisingly, his wife raised her hand and slapped him hard. It turned out that she still knew right from wrong. She said that he was actually a very dependent and lazy man. He relied on his wife for everything, big and small. When she was alive, alive. His wife always felt tired because she had to live a life serving him. It was only after she died that she realized she had been freed from that burden. She did not want to return to that confined life. She did not want to harm the innocent Gong Shil. She scolded her husband to wake up. She told him to be independent and live his own life. Louis Jiang finally realized his selfishness. He cried and regretted it, but his wife was determined to leave. She could not go back. He wiped his tears and went up to the stage alone to perform. But he had also matured more than before. Zhongwan ran to the scene. With just one glance, he knew that Gong Shil was possessed by another spirit. He rushed forward, grabbed her hand, and warned the spirit to leave Gong Shil immediately. The ghost of Louis Jiang's wife, still in Gong Shil's body, smiled and asked him if he wanted to know Gong Shil's deepest secret. It turned out that Gong Shil had liked him for a long time, but she didn't dare to say it. Before she could finish her sentence, Junwan interrupted. He didn't want Gong Shil to know these secrets from others. Then he pulled her close and kissed her on the lips. The kiss of the shelter had a strong cleansing power. The ghost of Louis Jiang's wife was quickly pushed out and disappeared from Gong Shil's body. Gong Shil shivered and fainted in Junwan's arms. He gently laid her down on the sofa and covered her with a shirt. He looked at the clock and saw that it was late, so he hurriedly ran to catch another flight. In her daze, Gong Shil only vaguely saw a familiar back leaving. After waking up, she was bewildered and forgot everything that had happened just now. She didn't remember why she was wearing a beautiful dress and lying here. Luckily, Jungwon came back in time to rescue her. Otherwise, her body would have been taken over forever. Not long after, Gong Shil was walking in the mall, and she passed by a familiar bench. The trash can next to her suddenly spun as if beckoning. She looked over and saw a gift box containing a sparkling sun necklace on the bench. The ghost trash can appeared and told her that it was a gift from Jungwon. Gong Shil was extremely happy when she heard that. She immediately put the necklace around her neck. At that moment, a security guard ran over to give the good news that Jungwon had returned from his business trip. Gong Shil happily ran to the company lobby to welcome him. Coincidentally, she met Secretary Kim there. He smiled and said that Jungwon was coming in right behind. Gong Shil eagerly turned around with a bright smile on her lips. But before she could smile for long, she was doused with a bucket of cold water. Jungwon's aunt came over and told Gong Shil that Jungwon was about to get married. His marriage partner was the daughter of a large conglomerate. Gong Shil should know her place and stay away from him. Gong Shil felt like thunder was exploding above her head. Then she saw Jungwon walk in. He appeared with a beautiful and elegant girl. The two of them walked past Gong Shil without him stopping or glancing at her. His eyes were cold and unfamiliar. While waiting for the private elevator, Soen tried to put her arm around Jungwon to show intimacy, but he harshly rejected her and pushed her hand away. He coldly told her that he had said he hated anyone touching him. Even if she fell and broke her leg, she would stand up on her own and not touch him. It turned out that it was not uncommon for large corporations to become in-laws. Usually, there was no need for love between them. They only needed economic benefits for themselves and their families. For the development of the company and to solve the financial crisis, Jung-won had intended to accept a fake commercial marriage with So-hyun, but he kept it a secret and did not tell Gong Shil the truth. Gong Shil came to his office. She felt empty and hurt, but she still tried to act happy and congratulated him. She congratulated him on his upcoming marriage. Then she wished him happiness. Moreover, she joked to hide her hurt. She told him to have many children quickly, then she could be his free nanny. The two of them talked to each other, but it seemed like each person was talking about a different issue. The words went in one ear and out the other, leaving nothing but bitterness. Jungwon knew that Gong Shil really liked him, but she deliberately said things that were against her heart to keep her last bit of self-respect. She lied that the person she really liked was not him but someone else. She was a girl, and she also liked sweet romance. Moreover, during this time, it was only because he was her only shelter that she patiently followed him. As a girl, she really hated calculating and pragmatic people like him. He was truly a bad and rude man. Jungwon was extremely angry after hearing this. He grumpily replied that he thanked her because he was not the type of man she liked. That was great. It saved her trouble. Gong Shil bowed and quickly left before he chased her away. At that moment, her tears were about to fall. Not long after, the rumor that Gong Shil was abandoned by the CEO to marry a rich woman spread throughout the company at a dizzying speed. Colleagues began to gossip and point fingers behind Gong Shil's back. They said she was a Cinderella who climbed high and fell hard. She was so pitiful. Just when Gong Shil was at her saddest, her old friend Yi Rong came to see her. Yi Rong wanted to invite Gong Shil to an old class reunion. Yi Rong said it was to mend their old friendship, but in reality, she was plotting to take this opportunity to show off her success and embarrass Gong Shil in front of her old friends. Gong Shil firmly responded to Yi Rong that she was not not afraid of being embarrassed either. She agreed to attend the reunion. In another development, the fake marriage contract between Jungwon and Seo-hyun was about to end. After this meal, they would officially break up. Jungwon remained calm and joked that he was under the curse of his first love, so this was the fourth time he had broken up. At the same time, Gongsil went down to the restaurant where the reunion was held. All her old classmates had arrived. As soon as Gongsil sat down, she was scared by a ghost waiter. However, she tried to calm down. Her friends started to talk about old memories. They were very curious and excited about Gongsil's current life. Yi Ryung sat next to her and told everyone about Gongsil's time working at Kingdom and how she was treated harshly by Jungwon. Gongsil did not hide anything and honestly told everyone about her experiences with Jungwon. After listening, all of her friends admired her. However, when they heard that he was about to marry another rich girl, some felt sorry for her, some secretly laughed in their hearts. After Gongsil finished telling the story, she sadly lowered her head. Just then, Jungwon suddenly appeared behind her. He gently stroked her hair and then loudly announced to everyone sitting there that he was Tae Gongsil's boyfriend. He had broken off the engagement. He would not marry that girl anymore. Then he pulled her up and generously told everyone to eat and drink as much as they wanted because he was paying. He even sweetly called her honey in front of the crowd. Then he held her hand and walked away, leaving his friends watching with eyes full of admiration and jealousy. When the two of them went outside, Jungwon had officially confessed to her. He said that he seemed to have fallen in love with her. He asked what she wanted to do now. She had to take responsibility. Gongsil couldn't believe her ears for a moment. Why did someone who had almost gotten married to someone else suddenly say he loved her? She doubtfully asked if he was playing with her feelings. He seriously said that he had never calculated her value and that he had kept her by his side as his radar. He did so because he loved her. Then he opened his arms and hugged her tightly. The two held hands and began their first official date full of sweetness. However, the beautiful scenery did not last long. They had to return to their main job of solving spiritual troubles. Gongsil and her sister went for a walk in the park. They saw a haggard woman handing out flyers looking for her missing son. Gongsil sympathized and said she was pitiful. In fact, the ghost of her little son had always followed her. Unfortunately, the world of yin and yang was separated, so the mother could not see the boy. Gongsil really wanted to tell the mother that her son was dead so that she would have less false hope, but Gongsil was also afraid that she would not be able to bear the shock and lose hope of living. At that time, Gongsil saw the ghost of the little boy running away into the distance. She quickly chased after him and finally found him. She asked the boy what happened. The boy took her to the scene of the accident. While she was looking for clues, a car drove by and stopped. A man got out of the car. He asked her what she was doing there. When the boy's ghost saw the man, the boy got scared and disappeared immediately. Gongsil asked him if there had been any accidents in the area. He said he didn't know. Then he noticed the missing child flyer in Gongsil's hand. He guessed that she was looking for the missing boy, so he began to suspect that Gongsil was a witness or someone who knew what happened. It turned out that he was the one who caused the boy's death. That day, he drove his car into the boy. Seeing the boy fall to the ground unconscious, he didn't call the police or ambulance. Worse still, he had the heart to put the boy who might still be alive in the trunk of his car to get rid of the evidence. His actions were too cruel. If he had taken the boy to the hospital in time, perhaps he would not have died so unjustly. Seeing the boy's mother desperately searching for her son, Gongsil could not bear it any longer. She asked the boy's ghost if he knew where his body was. The boy innocently replied that he was in a very dark and cold place. Gongsil told the boy to take her there to find him. They went to a deserted auto repair shop. Then the boy ran over and pointed at the trunk of a Sertwait's dilapidated car. While Gongsil was about to go check, the man from the day before suddenly appeared. He recognized her and remembered that she could be a witness, so he sneaked out and locked the door. He approached her and asked her a few questions. With her sharp intuition, she immediately felt that this man had a problem and was very dangerous. She quickly apologized and said that she got lost and came here. Then, she was about to leave, but he called her back and said he had something good to tell her. Gongsil was scared, but she still tried to act calm and stood still. At that moment, Gongsil saw the ghost of the boy pointing at the trunk behind his car. She understood that the boy's body was in there. She quickly called Jungwon secretly, but before she could say anything, the man approached her. Gongsil quickly turned off her phone and sent an urgent message with her location to Jungwon. He got closer and closer with a fierce look. When Gongsil had just sent the message, he discovered it and rushed to control her. Jungwon received the message, but ironically, he could not see the content clearly. After being kidnapped, his eyesight was affected due to psychological trauma. For the past 15 years, he has been dyslexic. In the moment of life and death of his lover, he ignored everything and just closed closed his eyes and prayed. He asked God to please let him see. Finally, a miracle happened. Jong-won could also vaguely see a few important words. He knew she was at a car repair shop. At this time, Gong-sil was tied to the chair by the murderer. He was preparing to kill her, to silence her. She tried to prolong the time by asking and chatting. She asked him when he hit the boy. Didn't he feel any regret or sadness? Why didn't he take the boy to the hospital? He was very curious and scared. Why did she know about this? He asked who told her. Gong-sil glared at him, and she said that the boy told her everything. He looked around but saw no one. He felt that this girl was crazy. Because of his panic, he saw the ghost of the boy appearing faintly in front of the car window. Taking advantage of his distraction, Gong-sil struggled to untie one of his hands. She took the spray paint can on the shelf and sprayed it on his face, making his eyes sting. Then she quickly ran out the door, but the workshop door was locked, so even if she knocked on the door and called for help, it was useless. He rubbed his eyes and slowly walked towards her. He held a long, sharp screwdriver in his hand as a weapon. He cornered her and raised his hand to stab her. At this moment, the door was broken open. In the dangerous moment, Jung-won always appeared in time like a guardian angel for Gong-sil. He rushed in to shield her with his body. The man panicked when he saw someone coming, so he quickly ran away. Jung-won turned to look at Gong-sil. He helplessly scolded her, saying that he had told her to be careful, but why did she let herself get hurt like this? She just smiled and said she was fine. Suddenly, his body became heavy, and he collapsed onto her shoulder. It turned out that while he was shielding her, the murderer's screwdriver had stabbed him deeply in the back. Fresh blood kept flowing down, soaking his shirt. The police and ambulance quickly arrived at the scene. The murderer was arrested. Jong-won, in critical condition, was immediately taken to the emergency room. Outside the operating room, Gong-sil sat on the ground and clasped her hands in prayer for his safety. At that moment, Gong-sil suddenly saw Jung-won walking towards her, but he was in a semi-transparent state. She panicked and shook her head in pain, screaming that he couldn't die. Jung-won's soul smiled sadly and said, "Is he dead? If so, he would feel very sad." But fortunately, the person he loved could still see him at this moment. Finally, he said he loved her. He told her, "Tae Gong-sil, I love you." Then he gradually disappeared into nothingness. Gong-sil sat on the floor, crying in despair. Could the person she loved just leave like that? In order to save the girl he loved, Jung-won was seriously injured. While he was being treated, his heart stopped beating for a moment. His soul left his body, making him think he was dead. After Jung-won confessed his love to Gong-sil, his soul disappeared, but his soul refused to return to his body. In the hospital room, thanks to the doctor's efforts to save him, his heartbeat recovered, but he was still in a deep coma and would not wake up. If his soul did not return, he would become a vegetable or brain dead. The urgent task now was to call his soul back. Although Gong-sil could see ghosts, she did not have the ability to call the souls of living people. What should she do? Suddenly, she remembered the Chinese fortune teller from before. Maybe she had a way to save him. Gong-sil went to her house and told her about Jung-won's critical condition. She closed her eyes and felt that his soul was lost in a memory space. He was with his dead first love, and he didn't want to go back. The fortune teller continued that although she couldn't see ghosts like Gong-sil, she could connect with spirits and call them back. Gong-sil quickly asked her for help. She set a condition that there would be a trade-off. Gong-sil would have to make a contract with her. From then on, Gong-sil would have to do everything for her. The fortune teller wanted Gong-sil to do anything, even using Gong-sil's ability to make money for her. It was like Gong-sil sold her body to the fortune teller. Gong-sil agreed without hesitation. As long as she could save Jung-won, even if Gong-sil sacrificed her life, she would do it. The fortune teller said that she needed a very familiar object that held deep memories with Jung-won to act as a conductor. Gong-sil suddenly remembered the sun-shaped necklace he gave her. The fortune teller added another cruel thing. Because only ghosts or dead people can see Gong-sil at this time, after Jung-won sees her, he will think he is dead. In order for Jung-won's soul to smoothly return to his body without being entangled in the underworld, she needs to seal his memories. Jung-won will forget all memories of Gong-sil and the time she appeared in his life. Gong-sil trembled and asked the fortune teller if Jung-won would really forget everything related to her. The fortune teller coldly nodded in affirmation and then asked Gong-sil if she accepted. Gong-sil burst into tears, but she still firmly nodded. It was okay for her. She needed to leave anyway. Since being by his side, she had put him in danger many times. She didn't want him to have any more problems because of her. Moreover, his aunt and uncle always opposed the two of them being together, so it was a good thing that he forgot her. The fortune teller dropped the necklace into the jar and then began to perform the soul soul-calling ritual. She used the energy of the necklace to tell Jungwon's soul that he was not dead yet. His family was still waiting for him, so he should come back. After she finished speaking, the necklace in the jar disappeared. Jungwon lay on the hospital bed and he gradually regained consciousness and woke up. But just as the fortune teller said, he had forgotten all memories related to Gong Shil. He still thought that his injury was due to an accident or a lightning strike. Jungwon's aunt felt that she was very happy that he had forgotten Gong Shil, so she ordered everyone in the company not to mention the name Tae Gong Shil in front of Jungwon. After Gong Shil heard that Jungwon had woken up, she was so happy that she cried, but she was also extremely heartbroken. Unfortunately, from then on, she could only watch him from afar, like a stranger. After Jungwon was discharged from the hospital and returned home, he returned to his normal life, but he always felt empty inside and was missing something very important that he could not figure out. After this, his dyslexia disappeared. He could read normally. Outside the shopping mall, Gong Shil accidentally met Jungwon. She looked at him passionately, but he passed her with an indifferent look. He completely forgot who she was. The two of them just passed each other like they had never known each other. At this time, Jungwon's aunt took the opportunity to actively introduce him to a new girlfriend of equal social status. Her name was Hana. In fact, Hana was Heeju's twin sister. Currently, Hana had plastic surgery to change her face. She deliberately approached Jungwon with bad intentions. Unfortunately, no one knew Hana's true identity. Not long after, the fortune teller came to find Gong Shil to collect the debt. She told Gong Shil to start fulfilling the contract, which was to work for her. At night, Gong Shil had to go to the cold cemetery. She wanted Gong Shil to find some unmarried female ghosts to matchmake for ghost weddings that rich customers requested. Gong Shil walked around, calling out like a street vendor. She asked if there was any girl who wanted to get married. There was a rich, handsome guy. Finally, Gong Shil found a suitable female ghost. The next day, the fortune teller started to matchmake the two ghosts with the help of Gong Shil. At the same time, the murderer, after escaping, searched everywhere for Gong Shil to take revenge. He sneaked into her old office. Unfortunately, she had already resigned, so the office was currently empty. Kangwoo went on patrol and felt that this man's behavior was suspicious and sneaky, so Kangwoo went to ask him what he was doing. He panicked and ran away, but was easily caught by Kangwoo. He knelt down and begged Kangwoo to take him to Gong Shil. He cried and said that ever since he heard her say that the boy was always following him, he could not rest in peace every day and every minute. He kept hearing crying or seeing ghosts. His spirit was about to go crazy. He begged Gong Shil to please chase the boy's ghost away. At the same time, Jungwon came over. When he saw the stranger, he immediately asked if this was the person who stabbed him. The trembling man confessed that he did not intend to stab Jungwon. The person he wanted to kill was a girl named Gong Shil, but unexpectedly, he suddenly rushed forward to shield her. He used his back to block the stab for her. That's why the screwdriver stabbed him. After Jungwon heard this, he felt extremely confused. Why was he willing to use his life to protect a strange girl like that? He tried to search his memory, but his head was in pain. He could not remember who that girl was. However, clues quickly came back. During a social gathering, Jungwon saw the sun-shaped necklace around Gong Shil's neck. When she went to work with the fortune teller, he suddenly felt a very familiar feeling and a sharp pain in his heart. Actually, that necklace was where his sealed memories were hidden. Jungwon went to find the fortune teller and asked if he could get his lost memories back. Of course, she said yes. When his heart was awakened by love, the seal would be broken and all his lost memories would be restored. Jungwon asked her again how much she would bid for the promise with Gong Shil. She smiled mysteriously and said, "Gong Shil voluntarily gave me her entire life and freedom, so how much do you think it was worth?" It turns out that Gong Shil had silently sacrificed so much for him. His heart was shaken, the seal was broken, and all the sweet and painful memories of the past came flooding back. Hannah saw Jungwon staring at the necklace around her neck, and she said he often looked at her necklace, but he didn't feel familiar with her at all. Jungwon coldly replied that although the sun necklace was the same, she was not his son. At this time, the ghost of Heeju came to Gong Shil. Heeju wanted to possess Gong Shil to apologize and confess to Jungwon, but Gong Shil refused, and the conversation between her and him was over. So Heeju should not come to find Gong Shil anymore. She should let the past sleep. Then Gong Shil took off the sun necklace and was about to throw it into the river to cut off all ties. Right at the crucial moment, Jungwon appeared and grabbed Gong Shil's hand to stop her. He said she really thought she could survive without a shelter. Gong Shil was surprised and asked if Jungwon had remembered, but he blamed her for taking his memories, and she didn't want to return them to him. Why was she so cruel to erase him from her life? She bowed her head and said she thought it would be good for both of them. Jungwon asked if Gong Shil really wanted to throw it away. If he didn't remember it himself and went to find her, wouldn't their memories be thrown away away and never be found again. Gong Shil admitted that it was true. It was her trash after all. Junwan pretended to be angry and said that he would throw it away. But Gong Shil was determined to give up on this relationship, so she turned away. Seeing that, Junwan panicked. He quickly thought of a way to call her back. He made an excuse that the wound on his back hurt so much. It seemed like it was torn open. Hearing that, Gong Shil became worried and quickly turned back to check. He took that opportunity to say that she had to take responsibility. She quickly helped him go home and rest. She had no choice but to help him go home. When they got there, she turned around to leave, but he reached out to hold her back. His whole body instantly regained its vitality, no longer in pain. He quickly went to pour her some water to drink. Once again, he confessed to her. He said he loved her, so she should not feel guilty or avoid him anymore. No matter what trouble she brought, he would accept it all. No matter what she reported, it was all his fault. For loving her, she was still afraid that she would bring him bad luck, but he firmly did not care. He was determined to become her strong shelter once again. He went to the fortune teller to cancel the contract between her and Gong Shil. He generously asked her to name a price. No matter how much money, he would agree just to buy Gong Shil's freedom. She agreed immediately, because no one would dislike money. Through investigation, Kang Woo discovered the secret that Hana was Heeju's twin sister. Jungwon went to find Hana to ask. The truth was revealed. Heeju had always had a crush on Jungwon, but she was too shy to confess, so Hana pretended to be Heeju to approach and talk to him. Gradually, both of them fell in love with Jungwon, but Hana was jealous because Jungwon only loved Heeju, so Hana planned to kidnap him to blackmail and separate the two. As a result, Heeju died. Instead of Hana took the money and fled abroad for plastic surgery. Hana denied and said she was not the one who harmed Heeju. It turned out that Secretary Kim was Heeju and Hana's uncle. He also defended Hana, saying that she was a good child and that she would not do such a cruel thing. But Jungwon had evidence, so he asked Hana to return the diamond necklace and turn herself in. Hana still stubbornly refused to admit it. She also said sarcastic words to his heartache and then leisurely left. Hana planned to escape abroad again. At this time, Heeju's ghost went to find Gong Shil again. Heeju urgently asked to possess Gong Shil to expose Hana's crimes. Gong Shil agreed. At the airport, after Gong Shil was possessed by Heeju, she blocked Hana's way. Gong Shil called out to Hana, but by the name Heeju. Hana looked at Gong Shil in horror. Gong Shil said she was Heeju, and she was also the only one who knew Hana. Heeju only borrowed Gong Shil's body to talk to Hana one last time. It turned out that the person who died in the accident years ago was the real Hana. The person who survived and was standing here was the evil Heeju. Heeju was jealous that Hana was better than her in everything. Heeju was also loved by the person she loved, so Heeju planned a cruel kidnapping to take everything away. Evil Heeju forced Hana to either die in an accident as Heeju, or she will kill Jongwoo. The truth is finally revealed. Kangwoo secretly recorded the entire confession conversation between the two of them. At that time, Secretary Kim painfully took out a souvenir statue. He broke it, and the diamond necklace worth 10 billion won that had been missing for the past 15 years fell out from inside. Now there is enough evidence and testimony. The mysterious kidnapping case of 15 years has finally been cleared up. The culprit has had to pay the law. After many ups and downs, Gong Shil and Jungwon can be together. Jungwon said that he had never really let go of Gong Shil even once, because she was his son. Without her, his earth would be in darkness and perish. Gong Shil happily replied to Jungwon. She said that she was his own son. Thank you for always being there as a shelter and not letting go of her. The two shared a sweet and passionate kiss to make up for the days of separation. In another scene, the couple Kangwoo and Yi Young finally became a couple. It created a perfect ending for everyone. The movie ended here. Goodbye, and I wish everyone to soon find their own shelter and sun.